Director, Guidance and Counseling, Professor Mrs. Haye, thank you so much. Thank you. We acknowledge the presence of Professor J.M. Omoyahi, Department of Animal Science. We welcome you. Professor Mrs. F.I. Okungbawa, Director, Center for Sustainable Development Goals. We welcome you. Professor Mrs. S.O. Olubodun, the former HOD, Department of Medical Biochemistry. All professors here present, we acknowledge you very specially. I'm sure as the program unfolds and when we get your names, we will acknowledge you duly. All participants, we want to appreciate you so well. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. May I now invite Professor Israel this way so we begin properly. Present to you Professor Israel Agaku. Professor Israel Agaku is an adjunct clinical professor at the University of California in San Francisco for close to a decade. He served as a senior scientist at the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC. He completed his dental training at the University of Ibadan and his dental public health residency at the U.S. National Institute of Health in Maryland, USA. He holds a master's degree in public health from Harvard University and 2 PhDs, one in epidemiology and the other in health systems. Dr. Agaku is the editor-in-chief for the Journal of Tobacco-Induced Diseases. He has authored over 160 manuscripts in peer-reviewed journals and has also served as an associate editor for the U.S. Surgeon General's report. Dr. Agaku is a diplomat. He is a diplomat of the American Board of Dental Public Health. An expert in data science and artificial intelligence, Dr. Agaku is the founder, CEO, and Chief Scientific Officer of Chi-Squares Incorporated, a setup focused on building cutting-edge scientific tools. May I now present to you Professor Israel Agaku to take us through this beautiful session. Prof.
Right. Thanks so much for taking time from your busy schedules to come to this two-day workshop. So over the next 2 days, it's going to be very hands-on. So I hope you have your laptops. And so we will go over the 2 days with no assumption of knowledge. In other words, we're not assuming that you know this or know that. So I have to apologize in advance if it sounds too elementary, because in the audience we'll have people from different domains, so we can't assume knowledge. Having said that, let's proceed. Can we switch to the slide? Okay, great. Thank you. So let's start with Research 101. What is research? So most people, this is the idea they have of research, that research is meant to be hard. So some people have palpitations whenever they hear research, especially if they have to do research for maybe their master's or their PhD. And you can't really blame them. Most people are trained in another area. Maybe they are trained as clinicians. And then suddenly they find themselves in a scenario where they have to do research for grants or for whatever reason. And so that is a fear that we want to completely eliminate over the next 2 days. So we don't want to think of research as being this struggle. We want to think of how do we generate research that makes sense. So let's go back to the basic foundations. What exactly is research? Well, the word research from a name means to research. In other words, we are searching over and over and over again. We could have simply called it search, but we didn't. Why? Because the research process is an iterative process where we're looking over and over and over. So the question is, what are we looking for? What are we researching for? Well, we are researching to find the truth. Now, anything we observe in the universe can be explained by one of three things. It could be truth, it could be chance, or it could be bias. These three things explain every single thing we observe in the universe. The goal of research, and the reason why we search over and over, is to identify the truth and to separate the truth from chance and bias. And this is a summary of what research is. So when you go through all the advanced methodologies we have in the research process, it is all about saying, how do we separate the truth from chance and from bias? It's as simple as that. And so we have developed very advanced tools in the research process. For example, I'm sure we have all heard of the p-value. Who has heard of p-value? Excellent. What is the job of the p-value? Well, the p-value's job is to control for the role of chance. So we see a finding and we say, is this result is it a fluke? Is it a chance finding? And then we say, what's the probability that this is due to chance? And then we'll find out that the probability is very small, that it is due to chance. So what do? We conclude that since the probability that this is due to chance is so small, then maybe it's not due to chance. Maybe it's the truth. So you see? And the same applies to many, many other advanced methodologies we have, like regression. Who has heard of regression analysis? Excellent. Why do we do regression? We do regression to control for bias. So think of any advanced methodology, statistical models, and all manner of advanced methodology. The role they are serving is very simple. How do we separate the truth from chance and from bias? And so when we talk about rigor in research, it's not spending all night working. It's not sweating. Rigor in research is the extent to which you have separated the truth from chance and bias. So if we talk about focusing on building robust research capacity, we cannot do that without going down to the basics of how do we identify the truth and how do we separate it from chance and bias. Now, there are two types of truths. You have the whole truth and the whole truth, right? The whole truth is one with holes. Obviously, what we want is the whole truth, the one in green that has no holes. Now, question is, why do you have holes in the other one? Well, it's because you have not controlled for chance and you have not controlled for bias. And over the next 2 days, that's all we're going to be focusing on. How do we, from the very first part of the research cycle, conduct our research in a way that is robust? And again, remember that robust means that you have given adequate thought to chance and to bias. It does not mean spending all night working and sweating, right? So we want to make sure that we understand what we're focusing on. So the question is, where do the holes come from? When we talk about the truth with holes, we don't like that truth because it is not an honest truth. But the question is, where do the holes come from? Well, they could come from any point in the research cycle. When we ideate the research, when we implement it, when we analyze data, and when we write. And so our research cycle will focus on our training, will focus on these 4 cycles. The research ideation phase, where we're just thinking about the research, when we conduct the research in the field, how we analyze the data, and how we report it. So we're going to talk about sources of bias and how we can address bias from those 4 phases. Again, from the very first point where we come up with the research proposal down to when we write and analyze. So those are the things we're going to cover. Addressing bias in the questionnaire design and then in the data analysis. So again, we want to dispel this notion that research is meant to be hard. No, research is meant to be rigorous. In other words, give very careful attention to sources of bias and sources of chance so that what you come up with is the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Now, another thing we want to address in this workshop is the issue of efficiency. This is a paper from the New England Journal of Medicine, and the gist of this paper is that on average it takes 4 years to publish a manuscript. From the time you think of the idea all the way to when it's finally published, on average it takes 4 years. Now that's a ridiculous amount of time, right? That's about the time it takes for someone to go into college and graduate with a bachelor's degree, right? So the question is, how can we make research more efficient? That's also another part of the process we will focus on. Efficiency. The New England Journal of Medicine further breaks down that time. And most of that time you can see is just planning, mechanical tasks, right? So in the age of AI or the age of automation, we can divide all activities into 2. Those that are purely intellectual, that add value, and tasks that are purely mechanical. You're just doing things for doing sake, right? We cannot replace the first. Of course, as the research process goes, every person must think very critically about what they're doing, but surely we can automate the second that is just purely mechanical, all right? So again, part of this training is to say, how do we bring about efficiencies in the research process? Because there are many things that are supposed to be hard, but aren't. For example, some of us drive cars. I cannot, to save my life, change the tire of a car or change my oil, right? But I'm able to drive from point A to point B. And so the same thing goes. How do we prevent a scenario whereby people, if they want to write a manuscript, have to take their data and go and give somebody else to analyze for them? This guy does the analysis. We're not even sure whether he knows what he's doing, but he generates a lot of tables. So you're like, well, this is a lot of tables, so this must be good, right? So it's about empowering. How do we empower researchers so that they are competent enough to take their data sets, analyze, and communicate the message they're trying to communicate? And so that's the goal of our workshop today. And so it's going to be very hands-on, like we've said. So we'll start from the very first part of the research cycle, which is the idea. Now, to make this hands-on, I would like someone to give us a research question that we can explore. Because the idea is, we take a research idea and we say, how do we turn this idea into a good research question? How do we calculate the sample size? How do we sample? That's the first part of what we're trying to achieve now. So we're going to take it in bite sizes so that we're not overwhelmed. So small bites at a time. So for now, our priority is we have an idea, I want to turn this into a research question and then calculate the sample size and sampling. How do we do that without having to go to some guy in statistics or find somebody to help us do it? Do it ourselves. All right, so we need a volunteer to give us a research idea. It doesn't have to be elegant or polished. In fact, the less polished it is, the better for our hands-on training. Yes, please. Do we have a microphone for the audience, please?
Morning, Sir Samuel. The impact of combustion engine emissions on occupational exposed individuals in Benin City, Nigeria.
Okay. The impact of combustion engines emissions
on occupational exposed individuals in Benin City.
Okay. Combustion engine emissions on health outcomes. I didn't hear the last part. So, is that a research question or is that a research idea? Is it a question or is it an idea? Yes. So again, we're going to start from the very basic. Again, we're not assuming knowledge, so apologies if it sounds too elemental.
Okay, okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Jill Ayobi. So the research idea I have is a research study that evaluates why students don't participate in events like this.
Okay, thanks. But I want to build on what he started, right? So while you have the microphone, did you hear what he said?
I had combustion and occupational therapy.
Okay, I'm going to repeat what he said while you have the microphone.
Okay.
He said the impact of emissions on health outcomes, emissions from vehicles on health outcomes. Sorry if I paraphrased very loosely. So is that a research question or is that a research idea?
A research idea.
Why is it not a question?
Because it's not asking why. It's not asking why. It's like suggesting something.
Okay? For something to be a question, what must happen at the end? It has to have a question mark. If there's no question mark, it's not a question. So that is a statement. So our first job in this activity is to do what? Take that idea and do what?
Turn it to a question.
Excellent. Now, there are 1,001 ways we can do that. But now we're going to look at the Chi-Squares platform and say, how do we take this idea in whatever form it is and turn that into a question, right? So that's what we're going to do now. Are we all on the same page? Is anyone confused? We're happy to repeat again if there's confusion in the audience. We good? All right. So let's head over to Amelia. I think, can you charge the computer? I think it's very... Right, so we'll head over to the Chi-Squares platform. So for those of you who have computers, if you want to create an account and follow on hands-on, you can... Right, this side. Please, I do not mean any disrespect, but I think I'm going to remove my jacket. It's very warm here. All right, so for those of you who have computers, to access the Chi-Squares platform, you can simply go to chi-squares.com. And it would be great if you can create your account now so you can follow along. This is meant to be a hands-on session. We don't want to just talk about theory. We want you to follow along. We want you to make mistakes so you can ask questions in real time about anything, right? And if there's any part of this that is relevant to your research, again, feel free to interrupt and ask your question. So you go to chi-squares.com and you will click on sign up to create your account. When you click on sign up, it's going to bring you to a page where you'll be asked to provide your first name, your last name, your email address, and create a password. And then that's all it takes. You will then have access to the platform. And then you can then follow along as we proceed. So I'm going to give a few seconds for us to do that. Again, it's chi-squares.com. Chi-squares with an S at the end. Okay, thank you. Please open it. Thank you. All right. While we are creating our account, I'll go ahead and proceed with the process of converting our research idea now to a research question. So when you have created your account, you will see a page like this. This is the kind of page you'll see on your account. This is what we call the dashboard. The dashboard is the central point from where you can navigate to other parts of the platform. And on the dashboard here, you're going to see major buttons here like Create Survey, Write Manuscripts, Analyze Data, Determine Sample, and Access AI Toolkit. The chi-squares platform is an end-to-end platform. On the same platform, you can design your studies, collect your data, analyze that data, write your manuscript, every single thing from the same platform. So the next 2 days, we're going to cover different aspects of the platform. For what we're trying to do now, we're going to use the AI Toolkit. The AI Toolkit has different tools inside it that helps you to achieve different things. So we'll click on Access AI Toolkit. And then it's going to bring us to this page, which tells us the different tools in the toolkit. For example, we have the Proposal Builder, which allows you to write proposals. So if you are trying to apply for grants, well, if you have written grants before, you know that the probability of getting a grant approval is very low, especially these days that you have a lot of competition. So the most important determinant of success in grants becomes the volume of grants you put out. So if you want to put out a lot of grants, the Proposal Builder is your friend. It allows you to put out grants at a very rapid rate. We're going to cover that and see how it works. But for now, what we're interested in is the research question generator, which is here. Again, let me start all over again for those who might be lost. We started from the dashboard, which is where you will be introduced to when you sign up or create your account. And our first task for the day is to say, we want to take the research idea and convert it into a research question. And so we said that for that, we need to use the AI toolkit. AI is artificial intelligence. So we clicked on this button, and it brought us to this page. And here, we can now click on Research Question Generator. Is everyone following? No? Okay, there are lots of no's at the back. Okay. Okay. Even if you cannot sign up, you can at least follow along. And then when you get back home, you can then practice. So we can prioritize the listening and understanding first, and then we can then practice later. We also have another day tomorrow, and so that's an opportunity for you to ask questions if you had issues. Is that a good approach? Excellent. So for those who were not following, I'm going to repeat it one more time so we can all follow. This is the dashboard, which is where you will be directed when you create your account. So we said that from the number of options here, click on the AI Toolkit, Access AI Toolkit, click on that button, and it's going to bring you to this page with different tools. We will cover these tools in greater detail, but for now, let's just focus on one thing at a time so that we don't overwhelm ourselves. So for now, we are interested purely in saying, how do we take a research idea and convert it into a research question? So for that, we are going to click on AI Research Question Generator. All right, those at the back, do you understand now? Excellent. So we're going to click on that, and it's going to open up this panel on the right-hand side. And here we're going to type the idea we have. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be any sophisticated entry. Just type whatever you can type. So from what I can remember, he said the impact of vehicular emissions. I don't remember the exact words he used, but I will just type what I remember. Emissions on, I didn't hear the last part, but I'm just going to put a placeholder on health outcomes. Is that close enough to what you said? Yes? Okay. You can type with your exact, or you want me to use the exact same thing, right? Please, can you give him mic again? Or better yet, please come and type it here for us. Why need a middleman when the man himself is here? Thank you. So you explained to us why. Can hold this for you. And Benin, right? Yes. Excellent. So the next part, the next box there, you're supposed to expand on the research idea. But if you're feeling very lazy, you can just copy and paste what you typed in the first input into that second box as well. So go ahead and copy and paste that same and put it in the second box as well. Excellent. Now let's click on generate questions. So let's give it a second. Okay, thanks. So now let's go over the output. Thank you very much. So what the platform gives you is that it picks one primary research question that it thinks is the most optimized for what you have in mind and gives it to you. And for that research question, it gives you aims, objectives, and hypotheses. So in this case, the research question is prolonged exposure to combustion engines emissions associated with changes in the hematological profile of occupationally exposed subjects in Benin metropolis, Nigeria? Now, what do we notice here? Is this a question or is this an idea? It's a question. Why? Because there's a question mark at the end, right? Now, we have aims. The aims tells us how we are going to meet or answer that question, right? So here, we have, I see some hands up. Let me quickly finish and then we can. Sorry, you have a question? Yes. Sorry? Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute. We have a, yes, is that the same question you have? Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. All right, so this is a question here, and now you have aims. you should not have more than 3 aims for a particular question. Anything more than that is an overkill. If you have more than 3 aims, that means you should have 2 separate research questions and 2 separate manuscripts, right? So the platform gives you, in this case, 3 aims. Aim 1 is to investigate the impact of prolonged exposure to combustion engine emissions on the hematological profile of occupational exposed subjects. Aim 2 is to assess the potential differences in the hematological profile of exposed subjects in different settings. And aim 3 is to explore the long-term effects of emissions on the profile of those who are exposed. Now, under each aim, you have objectives. The objectives tells us how that aim will be met. So you can think of the aim as the parents and the objectives as the children. So that tells us how the aim will be explored. And then you have the hypothesis. Obviously, as the researcher, you had an idea of what you think you might find. That's what the hypothesis is. The hypothesis tells us, as the investigator, where do you think this road will take us? The research question is like a journey or down the road. So the question is, where do you think this road leads? That's what the hypothesis is all about. And so here, you have these 3 research aims with specific objectives. And then the platform also provides other possible research questions to explore. Just in the case that you did not like that main research question, you have other research questions that you can also explore. And so the idea is that you will then take these research questions that have been suggested to you and be able to combine them to be able to formulate one solid research question. Now, the idea is never that you will then take these research questions and then just proceed with them without adapting them to your context. In epidemiology, we always use the PICO framework, P-I-C-O-T, as a formula to create good research questions. The PICO framework talks about P is for population, I is for the exposure, the C is for comparison, O is for outcome, and T is the time. So the idea is that you will introduce these elements of PICO in your research question. So for example, the population, we've said this is Benin City. The intervention or the exposure here is engine emissions. What is the control group? What's the time? So that's your job as a researcher. But what the platform does is give you that skeletal framework upon which you can then build. Is that understood? Yes, there were some questions. You had a question, yes. I cannot hear you at all. Is there a microphone? Yeah, upgrade, yes. Okay, issues of payment. So the platform, one of the things we are doing with the partnership is to provide a platform to your institution at an institutional rate. That has not yet kicked in, but that's something that is being processed and you will be able to access it. But for now, we have so you just have to bear with us on that part. Does that answer most of your questions? So for now, you can just follow along, and then when the mechanics of the institutional coverage are sorted, you will then be able to access it fully. Do you understand? So the idea is the platform in the US costs about $1,000 per person per year. Clearly, that is outside the coverage of most African countries. So what we're doing is provide it at a very discounted rate to academic institutions in Africa, where it's about $50 per person per year. And so, but we'll work out those mechanics with your institution, and then you'll be able to access it. We good? All right. Now we have our research question. The next is to create our proposal. Let's say we want to write a research proposal to NIH, or for a grant or a proposal. How many of us have applied for a grant here? Who has applied for a grant here before? Okay, how long did it take you to write a proposal? 1 week, 1 day, 1 month? Yes? About 3 months. And for those who have not applied, why aren't you applying for grants? Sorry? Okay, I can't hear that very well. Well, as part of this training, as part of our collaboration with your university, one of the things we want to do is also train you on how to write grants, right? Where can you apply for grants, apart from TEDFund? What are international sources of funding for research? For those of you who are not familiar with NIH, NIH is the National Institutes of Health. That's the largest granting agency in the world. But, you can't just write anything and submit to NIH. What you write must be of relevance to NIH. When an agency puts forward a call for proposal, they have problems that they want to solve. A grant is not free, it's not free money they just want to give about. They have problems that they want to solve that is of national interest to the United States, for example. And for your grant to be successful, obviously, you must write your grant in a way that solves the pain points of NIH first and foremost. So a grant is not a mechanism for you to get money and buy a car. It's not free money. A grant means that the agency has problems or has priorities that it must meet, and part of the training will be to tell you how to identify those priorities and how to write a grant that meets those priorities. Today's training, however, is going to be more on the mechanical aspect. How do we just generate a proposal? That's what we're going to focus now. So now we've just checked up on how we can create a research question. Next is to see how do we then take that research question and develop it into a proposal, whether it's for a grant or for a thesis or a dissertation. So that's what we're going to do next. So we're going to use this exact same idea we had. So we're going to copy this research idea, and this time around we will go to the AI toolkit, but this time we'll go to the proposal builder. Again, I'm going to start from the very beginning. If you are from a dashboard, come to dashboard, you'll go to the Access AI toolkit. And then you come to the proposal builder. This time we'll come to the proposal builder. Previously we went to the question generator, but this time we're going to the proposal builder. And we're going to select that. And then it's going to give us boxes to provide our title. I will just paste what we typed earlier. Our research idea, again, you can expand on that if you want. If you're feeling super lazy, just copy and paste exactly that same. I am feeling super lazy, so I'm just going to paste the exact same thing there. And then the study design. Yes. Oh. What happened? Okay. Have you always not seen it? Okay, sure. I'll go back. How come you guys didn't tell me? All right. So let's go back. So we're starting from a dashboard. Again, big picture. Right now we're trying to develop a proposal. Do we understand the big picture? Excellent. And so we said from a dashboard, okay, you will go to the Access AI toolkit. Then we will then select the proposal builder because we're trying to create or build a proposal. Like I said, in future trainings, we'll talk about the research proposal process in terms of the philosophy from an NIH perspective. This time, we'll just focus on the mechanics of how do we generate a proposal. So we'll click on proposal builder, and now we have to provide the title. I'm still going ahead with the title that was provided earlier, so we'll type it there. Next, we will expand on that idea. If you have a lot of energy, you can type in more detail. If you're feeling super lazy, you can just copy and paste that exact same thing. That's fine. It's going to work very fine too. Then next, you are going to choose the study design. Now, if you're working with NIH, for example, trying to apply for NIH grants, NIH sometimes asks for very specific study designs. Like, if FDA, for example, is trying to regulate some product, they are not going to say, just bring a cross-sectional study. Sometimes they are very specific as to the kind of study designs they want. So it's not unusual that you will see that this proposal calls for a prospective cohort study, or this proposal calls for this specific study design. Now, that becomes a problem if you're not an epidemiologist or if you're not familiar with that study design. I mean, how do you write a proposal for a design you do not know? And that's one of the things that the Chi-Space platform seeks to solve. All you need to do is select the design you're trying to write for, and it's going to customize the proposal to that design, right? So that then it's easier for you to then edit afterwards. So for this, we're just going to go ahead with just a simple design that we're all familiar with. I'm going to go with a cross-sectional design. So again, to recap, we came to the dashboard, we selected a proposal builder, and then we had to provide these inputs. We provided a title, we provided our research idea, and now we have selected our study design as a cross-sectional study. Next, we have to select the country the proposal is going to be in. In this case, this is Nigeria. The research team put the name of each member of a team. For example, Jane Doe, who has her highest degree as a PhD. And if you're the only person, that means that automatically you are the principal investigator. There can be only one principal investigator on the grant. The rest can be co-principal investigators or other roles. So here we're going to select principal investigator as our role, and then the relevant experience. So for example, we can say that Jane Doe has, it doesn't have to be paragraph. We're not asking you to dump your resume here. Just a simple sentence or sentences that talks about your relevant experience to that project you're working on. It has 5 years experience in occupational research. Are we all following? Is anyone confused? And we can restart again if anyone is lost. Is anyone lost? Sorry? The topic is something about vehicular exposures on hematological profiles. But again, the topic doesn't really matter. It could be any topic. We're just using it as a case study. Are you good? Okay. Is anyone confused? All right, none. So let's recap. We went to the AI toolkit, we selected the research proposal builder, and we provided our title, our idea, our study design, and where the study will be conducted. And then we provided the research team. If there are many members of that team, you just click here to add team member, and you will then provide the exact same information for them in terms of their names, their qualifications, and the relevant experience. The proposal builder on the Chi-Squares platform is patterned after the NIH format. So the NIH, again, there are different types of granting agencies in the world. TED Fund gives grants too, and I'm sure TED Fund has their own format. But the NIH is the largest and the most influential agency for funding, and so that's why this is tailored after NIH. So if you're writing a grant for another agency, you might just generate it and then adapt it to that particular agency. All right, so now we can then click on Create Proposal. So once we click on that, what the platform then does is to take the information we have provided here and then use it to create a proposal, again, built after the NIH format. So the NIH format has very specific components. You have to provide, first of all, the background. Why is this topic important? And then you're supposed to provide the significance. The significance tells us, why is this important? Why are we paying you $1 million to do this work? Next is the novelty. What's new in what you're doing, right? How is it different from what has been done? There are different types of NIH grants, and again, we'll talk about this in future trainings. There are some that require novelty and you are supposed to try and fail. Then there are some that they want some more stable methodology. You have to know what you're applying for. So the platform will provide all of these things for you based on what it has been trained on. It has been trained on millions upon millions of records from NIH database. So it creates the proposal for you, and then its job is done at that point. Now it's your job to then take what it has created and revise it. Again, I must emphasize that what the platform creates is not meant to be the final version. It's not meant to be what you then just take and go and submit to NIH. It's just meant to be a starting point for you. The idea is that most people are much more inclined that it's easier for them to work with a version of something than to start from scratch. So for most people, a blank sheet of paper is a very terrifying exposure, right? Like, where do I start from? So having somewhere to start from is good. And so that's the whole point of this. It's not meant to replace you. It's not meant to be the final version. It's just meant to be a rough draft it's a good first draft from which you can start. And now it's adding references. Now, the references the platform add are not AI generated. We know that AI has a lot of problems with hallucination, and AI can make a lot of references, just made up references. So the platform avoids that by getting references from PubMed, Web of Science, from actual databases. And that's why this part takes some time, because it's not just creating the references on the fly. So once it's done, we will now see the proposal it has generated. And if it's taking long, you can always hit refresh, or you can proceed with other things you're doing and then come back to it later. All right, great. So now we have our proposal created. Not in 1 month, not in 2 months, not in 3 months, in a few minutes. So let's walk through the proposal and let's see what it looks like. This is the topic we provided, the one at the top, the impact of combustion, blah, blah, blah. This is what the platform says, well, let's not use that title, let's use something else, right? So this is the platform's recommended title for your proposal. And of course, very important reminder here that please don't take this version and go and submit. What you should instead do is download the proposal, go and get a cup of coffee or milk or whatever your drink is, and then sit down and review it very carefully. This is what ethical use of AI in research means. It means that the human is not replaced, right? It's a tool that is meant to help you, not replace you. So you still have a job to play in this process. And then you have the background. The background is the place where the platform talks about why a topic is important based on how NIH would like you to write it, right? So it provides a background for you leading up to why the topic is important. And then you have research questions and specific aims. So they Right. Any questions so far while we wait for the screen to come on? Does anyone have any questions on what we've covered? None? We good? All right. So, yes. So we're saying that one of the things we're working with your institution to do is to provide the platform to you institutionally at reduced cost. So that's something we're still working out. And so you will have access once that is covered. So for now, just if you can pay attention to what we're doing, and then once the issues of cost is sorted, you can then have access. We good? All right, so again, let's take a quick recap of where we are. We said we want to write a proposal, and we want the platform to help us give us a solid version 1 to start from. So we came to the AI toolkit, and we selected the research proposal generator. We provide our input, which was our research idea, and it has created this proposal for us. This is the background. This is the research questions and specific aims. So again, we have 3 aims, patterned after the NIH format. For NIH format, we always recommend 3 aims. The vast majority of NIH formats have 3 aims. So if you, our AI has been trained on, millions of AI records from NIH. So that's why you have this particular format. And then you have significance, which tells you why a topic is important. You have the innovation, and then you have approach. NIH's approach is a very broad umbrella that tells us how will this work be done. Under approach, you have the methodology, which is the scientific part of the approach. Then you also have the strengths and challenges also under approach. The research team. So everything that you were asked to provide at the beginning was so that it could flow into one specific aspect of the NIH proposal. So we have the research team, the dissemination and direction, the budget. Again, the platform seeks to, it attempts to create a budget for you. Obviously, the budget will never be accurate, but at the very least, it serves to point you in the right direction and say, okay, these are some of the things that you could consider. And so you can then adjust the budgets accordingly. And of course, the budgets are also based on the US experience, where, for example, in this case, you have, over $1 million, right? That may not be practical or make sense for certain contexts. So you will have to adapt most of the parts of the proposal to fit your local context. Of course, where you have a budget, you also have a budget justification. And then you have the references. So again, this proposal, you're supposed to sit down and then review it very carefully and put it in your own words and make sure that it fits your local context. Are we clear on that? Excellent. All right, so that is how the platform allows you to move from creating research questions to then creating a research proposal. But now let's move a step further. Let's say we want to now develop a manuscript, right? The context says that let's say we've never written a whole manuscript in our life, and we have to write a manuscript, maybe for our PhD work, or obviously after you win NIH grant, you still have to write a manuscript. NIH is not going to give you money if there is no manuscript attached. What's the value in it for them? So you need a manuscript. So let's say you want to write a manuscript and you've never written a manuscript. How many of us have written a manuscript here? Who is published? Okay? So we have seen the minority of hands, right, raised. So most of us maybe have not written a manuscript. Who would like to write a manuscript? Okay? Okay, most of us are not even interested in manuscripts at all. All right, but hopefully we'll show you how it works so you can see how the platform allows you to write a manuscript and how it makes it super easy. Again, remember that rigor in research doesn't mean that you have to spend 20 days and 20 nights sweating it out, right? Rigor in research means, have you paid careful attention to sources of bias and chance in the research process, right? So the time it took you is not a marker for the quality of a research. So we'll show you now how you can develop manuscripts on the Chi-Express platform. So let's go back to the dashboard, which is where we start from. And this time around, we'll click on Analyze Data. So the platform has two important components here: write manuscripts and analyze data. We're going to be using these two together. Now, on the Chi-Square platform, we use a risk-based framework. Let's talk about that briefly so that we know how the platform helps with generation of manuscripts. So a risk-based framework says that let us put all activities that are done in research into two. And under that framework, we can classify things as high risk or low risk. A high risk task is anything that has to do with data analysis, manuscript reference generation, data visualization. These things interface with data, and that's why we call them high risk. They're high risk because they have to be 100% of the time. There's no margin for error. We need them to be 100% correct 100% of the time. And then there are other things that we can deem as low risk. Low risk because it doesn't really matter whether we get it so much right or wrong. Things like take this small text and make it big, or take this big text and make it small, or paraphrase this for me. Those are low risk because they do not interface with data. So in the Chi-Square platform, we use a hybrid. We use AI for things that are low risk, but everything that is high risk that involves data does not interface with AI, right? It is based on a software framework, rules-based automation. So things like computation, analysis, transformations, creation of tables or figures, or interpretation of data, those are things that interface with data, and we therefore cannot use AI for them, right? Then things like, write an introduction for me. Well, does it involve data? No. So in that case, we can use AI for that. So that's one of the things, we want to keep that in mind. The whole goal is to invert the effort pyramid. Right now, people spend 90% of the time sweating, right, in writing a manuscript, going back and forth with this guy who is supposed to analyze the data for them, and trying to just make sense of the data. For most people, when they hear of the word data analysis, they immediately have palpitations, right? We want to invert that effort, whereby we use automation to solve most of those problems. So I just wanted us to keep that in mind as we go into the analysis part of the work. And so the use of AI on the Chi-Square platform is based on what AI can do. And in general, we can take all of the tasks that AI can do and we can put them into 3 buckets based on how accurate they are. Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Tier 1 work, AI will always get it right. You tell AI, pattern recognition, recognize patterns, right? Tier 2 work is good enough work. AI may not get it right 100% as you might want, but it's good enough. Tier 3 work is where we need absolute accuracy, right? And for those kind of tasks, we cannot use AI. That is the framework that the Chi-Square platform uses. And one problem that we're also going to see solved as we write a manuscript is the problem of fragmentation. The current approach to writing manuscripts is that I have to go to one platform to collect data. Maybe I go to Google Forms or SurveyMonkey, collect data, and then I go to another platform to analyze it, maybe SPSS or R or Python, and then I go to maybe Excel to create figures, and then I take these things to Microsoft Word to type, and then I find EndNote to do references for me, and then I go to Gmail to communicate with my authors, and the process goes on and on and on. It's a lot of fragmentation. One of the things we're going to see done is the replacement of all of these things with one single approach. So on the Chi-Square platform, we can do all of those things from one single platform. So that is what we're going to do right now. So we're going to take a research question, and we're going to see how we can analyze data, write our manuscript, do our references, all in just about an hour or less, and all on one same platform. Again, the goal is how do we introduce efficiency, right? That is what we're going to achieve now. Do we all understand the big picture of what we're trying to achieve? Excellent. So let's go to the platform, and let's see how this works. So to write a manuscript, you can either start from the manuscript, where you click on Write Manuscript, and then you provide the title of the manuscript, or if you're not interested in that, you can simply start from the data. So you can start from the data or from the manuscript. Since most people are afraid of data, I'm going to start from the data. So you can start with analyzing data. It doesn't matter because remember that this is one ecosystem where everything is interconnected. So it's not like working on your computer where you have, SPSS open in one window and Microsoft Word open in another window where you have to start copying and pasting. No. This is one single ecosystem where whatever you're doing in one place is recognized at the other place seamlessly, right? So this is a slightly different way of thinking about data than you might be familiar with. So let's click on Analyze Data. And now we have to provide the title of our project. So the data set I'm going to analyze has to do with tobacco use. Part of the trainings we're going to show you over time is also how to identify and use publicly available data sets. There are thousands of data sets in the public domain. It's not every single time that you want to do research that you have to go and collect data, primary data. That is expensive, that is sometimes wasteful. Of course, sometimes it's very important. But a lot of times, whatever you are trying to collect has already been collected somewhere else by another agency and is there in the public domain. So part of efficient research is saying, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Sure, the data set that is existing may not be a perfect fit for your needs, but you can adapt to it, right? So that's one of the trainings we're going to have separate from now. For now, we just focus on the mechanics of writing. So we'll talk about the other aspects in some future training. For now, we want to solve one problem at a time. So for this training, what are the mechanics of writing? How can we write in a way that is efficient and fast and makes sense from a scientific perspective? Are we good? All right. So here we're going to provide the title of our analysis project. Let's call this Tobacco Use Among Adults. Again, the topic does not matter. It could be anything. It could be any data set. But obviously, I only have one data set, so I have to use the one I have now. All right, that's why I'm using this data set. There's nothing special about tobacco use among adults. It is just the data set that this computer happens to have now. So tobacco use among adults. So again, we came to the dashboard. We selected Analyze Data. When we clicked there, we started a new project, and we have this. So again, let me start all over again. Let me just copy this. So, just start all over. This is where we started from. We clicked on Analyze Data. We said that when you're writing a manuscript, you can either start with the document or start with the data. It doesn't matter, whatever you want, your preference. We are just starting with the data. If you start with analysis, you can always push the results of your analysis to your manuscript. If you start from manuscript, you can always extract the results from the data. It doesn't matter, anywhere is fine. So I just prefer starting with the data, and that's where I'm going to start from. So from a dashboard, we clicked on Analyze Data, and this is where we had this page. Here we provide the title, which is what I typed earlier, and the project description, if you want, that's optional. I'm just going to leave it blank, and then we'll click on Proceed. And now it's going to ask you to bring your data set. The question I receive all the time is, so where am I supposed to get the data from? And my answer is, how am I supposed to know? It's your data set, it's your project, right? So you should have had a data set somewhere. It's like when you're analyzing data on SPSS, you have to provide the data, right? So your data set from wherever you've brought it. The goal of a platform is not to solve all your problems, including your marital problems. No. It is say, this particular issue you have with analysis, how do we solve it, right? So you have to worry about the analysis by yourself. Sorry, the data set by yourself, okay? So you bring the data set here, and now you have to upload the data set to the platform. Now, there are different ways you can upload the data set to the platform. Number one, if you have a data set sitting on your computer, you can just bring it up with this button, Upload Data Set. If you have a survey conducted on the platform, because remember the platform allows you to conduct surveys, and so if you have a survey done already, you can just import data from that survey. It makes no sense to go to the survey, download it, then come here, then upload it for something that is on the same platform. You can simply click here, and then it's going to ask you which survey do you want to import from, and then you import. But this is not what we're doing, so we're going to leave that aside. Or the third option is import from public data sets. What we're also trying to do is to bring all of the world's public data sets under one roof. Think about what Google has done to information technology. If you want to know a carousel near me, just Google, right? That information exists somewhere else. Google is just bringing everything together for you to access it easily. We are also doing the exact same thing with data. All publicly available data sets in the world, we are going to bring them under one roof so that researchers can access them conveniently. So in that case, you can import from public data sets. That's what we mean by public data sets here. So when you click there, it's going to show you the data sets that exist in that public repository. And then you can select the one that you want. For now, let's keep it simple. Let's stick to the story. We want to import from our data sets that exist on our computer that were collected from wherever, maybe from students in our university, in an Excel spreadsheet, and it's on our computer, right? Do we understand the story? Excellent. So we're going to click on Upload Data Set, and we'll then select the file. The file could be from your recent files. Recent files simply means files that you have worked with in the recent past. It could be from your storage on the platform. When you have an account, everybody has storage, so you can save things in your storage, the same way you can save things in your My Folder or things of that nature. You can upload and select My Device, where it will then allow you to specify whether it's your desktop or wherever it is. Or if you have it in your Dropbox, you can select that and then sign into your Dropbox, and so on and so forth. I'm going to use this file here. The platform also is agnostic in relation to the type of data set you have. So it doesn't matter whether it is a CSV, Excel, Parquet, Stata. The platform can read data in any format. So in this case, for example, this is a Parquet file, which is not human readable, but I'm going to just use that for this demonstration, and click on Import. So the platform will take the data set and then read it. So now it's reading the data set. So we'll give it a second. So in the process of reading, it checks for whether there are problems with the data set. When the platform sees a problem with whatever you're doing, it doesn't just proceed. It tells you, hey, this is a problem. So the platform is what we call a translated statistical program, meaning, I'm sure you've heard of the term garbage in, garbage out. Well, with the platform, it's not that way. It's aware of the context of the analysis, so whenever there's a problem, it says, let's not proceed. Let's fix this problem. All right, so now the data set has been read. Now, when you're trying to analyze data, the first thing is not just to jump into your data set and start analyzing. It's to, first of all, look at the data you have, inspect it, all right? In medical school, they teach you about IPPA, inspect, because I cannot remember all those things again, right? But you have to inspect first. A patient comes with a swelling. You don't just start touching it, you inspect. The same thing applies with data. When you bring data sets in, you don't just jump into the analysis. You have to inspect the data. So what are we inspecting for? Well, how many rows do we have? How many columns do we have? So here, for example, how many individuals are in this data set? So let's see our data literacy. How do you know how many individuals you have in your data set here? Again, this is not meant to be a boring lecture where just... No, in this, we have imported a data set into the analysis, right? From just inspecting, how many individuals are in this data set? Sorry? I can't hear you. No, 8 to 3. Okay, so somebody said 8 to 3. Okay? So this is the number of individuals in the data set. 32,629, right? That's the number of rows. So that's as basic as it gets, right? Again, import the data set, don't just jump in and say, oh, I want to do a regression. No, no, no. Have you inspected the data set? Are there anomalies? So we start with, how many rows do I have? The rows are the number of individuals. So here, this tells me that there are 32,629 people or rows in this data set. Now, how many variables do I have? Excellent. There are 823. What are variables? Variables are things like age and sex and race. Those are called variables. We call them variables because they vary. A variable is a variable because it varies. That's why we call it a variable. Because you might be female, I'll be male, somebody has some other gender, right? We can analyze data because things vary. If everybody is male, then there's no point for analysis, right? Because everybody is the same value. So we analyze things to see how things vary across different groups. So that's the first thing. So we have a number of columns and we have a number of rows. Then that's the first step. Then you now go down to the actual variables. These are the variables in your data set here. For example, sexual orientation. This tells me that this variable is categorical. The values, it has 2 unique values, and then there are 0 missing values. Missing values are very important in research. So they tell you whether that variable should be used or not. If a variable has a lot of missing values, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Generally, it's a bad thing, right? So we want to keep the number of missing values as small as possible. But you have to inspect the data before you know that there's a problem. If I have a student and just take a very bad data set and analyze it without even paying attention to things like number of missing values, I'll be like, well, you really don't know what you're doing, do you? Right? Because you should first of all check for the number of missing values. And so the platform puts it under this column for you very clearly so you can know what's going on in your data set. Also, another part of data inspection is to visualize the key variables you care about. Of course, there are 823 variables in this data set, but I may not be interested in all of them. I may be interested in a few very important ones. So I don't have to now inspect each one of them, but I should, at the very least, inspect the ones that I care about. So you have a lot of icons here provided for you to inspect. So let's look at them, for example. What do you think this first icon does? What does it look like? This icon here, what do you think it does? Graph. So you have to graph it. Data visualization is one of the most important aspects of inspecting data, right? Because they say a picture speaks 1,000 words. So just by visualizing, you can see the spread of the data, you can see whether there are outliers, and so many other things. So if I wanted to inspect this data, all I would do is just click on the visualize, and the platform will create the visualization for that variable for me. I can choose to switch the type of visualization. Let's say I want to switch it from a bar chart to, for example, a pie chart. So again, don't jump into data analysis when you have not taken the time to carefully study the data, visualize it, and see what it's all about. So you don't have to do it for all the variables, but you should do it absolutely for the variables that are important to you. Then you have this next icon, which looks like a tally, which is like the summary of that variable. So when you click on that, it's going to tell you every single thing about that variable, like the unique values and the count for that. These are some of the most important steps in analysis, right? So instead of you just taking your data set and giving somebody else to analyze for you, import the data set yourself. Understand what you're dealing with. You are the one who wants to tell a story with your data sets. You should be able to know what's inside, right? So, and it's not rocket science. Just import it. The data, it's looking at you right there. There's nothing special about it, right? It's something you can do yourself. Now, if all you are interested is not some super complicated analysis, you might just be interested in, I just want the summary for each variable. In that case, you will just come here to descriptive statistics report and just click there. It will take the whole data set and analyze it for you, each question at a time, and then you will have this kind of report, descriptive report. For each variable, it will analyze it and give you the appropriate visualization for it. The platform knows the variable types and knows what variable each variable is, so it analyzes it in a way that's appropriate for that variable type and also visualizes it in a way that is appropriate for that variable type. So if all you care about is just some basic descriptive statistics, all you need to do is just click on that button there, here, descriptive statistics report, and you can have that. Are we good? Is anyone lost? Okay. Sorry? All right, so I need somebody to come and show us how to visualize a variable and describe what that variable is telling us. So you come, you visualize a variable, you also use the summary statistics and tell us what that variable is all about. So, okay, let me start. So here I'm going to use this variable. This variable, smoke frequency, unique values. There are two. That means that it has two unique values. So in that whole data set, people can belong to one value or the other value. So this is a categorical variable, right? The two unique values are non-daily and daily. 850 people belong in non-daily and 2,513 belong in daily. Expressed as percentages, that is 25.3 who report non-daily and 74.7 who report daily. So, now I need a volunteer to do the exact same thing for another variable. You visualize the variable, look at the summary statistics, and tell us the kind of variable it is. We can also, let's use a continuous variable. So a variable like this, whatever that is, when we click on the summary, because there are different types of variables, categorical, continuous, the platform knows exactly what each variable type is, and you don't have to tell it the kind of analysis that should be performed. So here, this tells me that this variable, it has 1,211 unique values. The number of missing values are 16,641. The mean is this. The standard deviation is this. The minimum value is this. And so on and so forth. All right. So I need a brave person to come and tell us. You don't have to know what the variable is. Just say, this variable has this, has that. I need to be convinced that we're following. So who wants to do it? It's not a trick question. We will all support you. Or should I pick a volunteer? If someone doesn't come, I'll pick a volunteer. Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, for each of them. The variable name is I cos 3A. Okay, this data set was represented through or by an histogram. Shows the frequency and the values. You choose to represent the box plot. Okay, it showed the max, the medium, and the minimum using the visualization of a box plot. So we're trying to get the summary of the data set. Okay, and the values we have for this particular data set, we have the mean, the standard deviation, the minimum, first quartile, median, third quartile, and the maximum. And the values are as written above.
So, thank you very much. Now, most times when we are doing analysis, sometimes we want to recode, right? Recode simply means to recode. A code means the value that a variable has. So in this case, for example, let's look at this variable, education. How many codes does education have? Again, we want to understand these things from the most basic level. When we say recode, means we are changing the code. Recode. Let's change the code. So for us to know what the code is, for us to recode, we have to first of all know what the codes are, right? So how many codes does education have? So let me expand this. 7. Exactly. And what are the codes? Let's expand. Let's look at the summary. So again, you're not going to know everything about data in one day. We're going to have trainings, right? This today is just to give you a very high-level overview of a platform so that you have some understanding, so that when we start, we'll then build on that foundation going forward. So what are the codes? Who can give me an example of a code in education? Yeah, bachelor, that's a code. Or high school, that's another code. Excellent, those are the codes, right? So a recode might mean doing what? So based on now on your understanding of what a code is, what does recode mean? What might we want to do on that recode? Exactly. We might want to change, for example, bachelor to bachelor degree. What else might we want to do? How many codes currently exist? 7. So what else might we want to do? I want to reduce it, right? Collapse it. Can we increase it? Can we change it from 7 to 9? Some people are saying yes. Maybe with African voodoo, right? But no statistics, right? The only thing you can do is reduce it. You can't add, right? Is that clear? So you can reduce it. And that's why when you're collecting data in the field, you want to make sure that your questionnaire it's better to collect data that collects information on a lot of things, because you can collapse, but you cannot add, right? So recode might also mean that, well, I have data on individuals who had some college and who had graduate degree and who had bachelor's degree. How about I just collapse all of them into, let's say, university or above? That is also an example of recode, because now we are changing the number of codes from 7 to maybe 4 or 5, right? Now, you as the researcher, you need to know these things, because who determines where they want to change the codes? It's you. You decide, oh, I don't want to have 7 codes. So you shouldn't be asking somebody else that, should I recode? It's like, how? Why are you asking me? It's your research question. You should feel empowered to make decisions, right? And that's why we need to understand these things from the basics, from the very foundations. So let's see how we can recode on the platform. We need a volunteer from the audience to do it for categorical and continuous. I don't want us to just go straight into the manuscript without knowing how to do some of those basic things, right? So, To recode, let's stick with education. Is education a categorical variable or is it continuous? Categorical, right? Excellent. Oh, you already have the answer there in front of you. So let's say we want to recode it. We will go to the more options, click those 3 buttons, and then select recode. You can also rename. Rename simply means let's change the name from educ to something else like education. For now, let's not cover many things. Let's just cover one thing at a time. So let's click on recode. So we'll select that. And so let's say that, let's expand this so it's bigger. This makes it bigger. So let's say that we want to bring people who have an associate degree and a bachelor degree together. All we need to do is we can drag and drop. So you see this, when you hover, you see this stuff here. That means that you can drag. So if I want to bring associate degree and bachelor together, I'll just drag and drop. And that's how you collapse it. So now, this is bachelor or associate degree. If I also now want to collapse these 2 guys together, I'll simply drag and drop. And that's how you recode on the platform. So now it says some college or bachelor and then I can now rename this, edit label by clicking on more actions and clicking on edit label and remove all of that and type whatever I want. For example, college. And I may also want to go to collapse those who went to graduate school together. So maybe bring college and graduate school together. So essentially, on the chi-squares platform, you recode for categorical variables by simply drag and drop. So again, I can click on more actions, edit label, and call this college. If you don't want to do drag and drop, let's reset it all over again. If you don't want to do the drag and drop thing, you can simply select the ones you want to combine together. So graduate, associate degree, bachelor, some college. And once you select, that green stuff comes at the top that says manage selected categories. I will click on that and select merge selected. And now they're all merged together. And I can now give it a name, for example, edit label, and call it college. Confirm. And then I can give it a new name. You never ever want to, let me make this smaller. You never ever want to rename and replace your original variable. What if you made a mistake? What happens? So you always create a new variable so that you always preserve the original variable. So let's call this education 2. And now we can proceed. And that's how you recode a variable. So you remember that recode means to recode, to change the codes. Give them a new name, collapse the codes, do whatever, but you are changing the codes. Now let's do that on a continuous variable. And then we'll need a volunteer to come and do it for us on the exact same thing we did so that we are sure we're all following. So let's select a continuous variable. For example, let's look at this variable that maybe this is weight. We'll again come to the option here and recode. So again, let's make this bigger so we can see what we're doing. So let's say that in this continuous variable, we want to split this continuous variable into 2 groups. Those 500 or above, depending on what we want. No, remember, nobody's telling you that this is where you have to cut. You need to know how you want to cut the variable. So let's say we want to cut this variable at 500 above, and then the others. All you need to do is just click where you want to cut it and specify the value you want to cut at. 500. and confirm. It's as simple as that. The platform will then cut it at that value for you. So now we have this to 499.99 and 500 and above. So again, this is the same thing that you would do on any statistical software. The only difference is on the chi-square platform is very visual. So you can see what you're doing. It's meant to be like almost like a game. So it's simple and it's just a matter of click. And if I want to cut again at multiple places, I can just specify where I want to cut and then specify and cut it. And when I'm done, I can give it a name. Let's call this any name you want. Let's say var2 and proceed. And that's how you recode variables on the chi-square platform. Is anyone confused? All right, now let's say we want to recode. Now this is your turn now. Let's say we want to record, let's go back to let me delete this variable. To delete a variable, you select and you delete. All right. So let's go back to the exact same thing we did. Let's say we want to record education. So we need a volunteer now to come and show us how to record. You can record it however you want. Tell us what you want to do, and then do it. Yeah, remember, you are the one who determines what you want to record or how you want to record it. But that's part of developing your acumen as a researcher, being able to make judgment calls. Here is what I want to do, and here is why I want to do it this way. It's not running to your supervisor every minute and say, what should I do? It's like, really? Research is about thinking. Like, why do I have to tell you everything what to do? So you have to decide, this is what I want to do, and this is why. This is what we mean by science being defensible. You should be able to defend what you have chosen to do. It's not complicated. Make a decision and stand by it. So now, for a hypothetical work we're doing, we need somebody to come and tell us why they want to recode education in a particular way, and then record it. Any volunteers? Don't get a volunteer, I will choose a volunteer. The way the military chooses volunteers. You, and you are volunteers. Should I pick a volunteer? Yes? Or does someone want to volunteer? Okay, do you want to come? My chosen volunteer refused. Oh, thank you. We saved the day. Please, clap for him. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Let's record education. Then, when you click here, you see the various options: write, visualize, record, rename, replace, and the rest. When we click on record, then you have different variables under education. We have bachelor, college, graduate, and the rest. Then, now you have these variables. Okay, 7 variables. Then you want to record. You want to reduce the number of variables and maybe replace them with a different name. For instance, if you want to take bachelor and add to 0 to 12 years, what you do is you click on the bachelor and drag. Okay, let's do it another way. Let's manage selected categories. Okay. Okay, let us make it big so you can see it very clearly. Then we click on Merge Selected Categories. Then you give it another name, maybe faculty. Then you click on Proceed. Then you are able to reduce the number of values to 4. Okay, then you can see the new variable, which is faculty. We're trying to visualize it now.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Right. So I think that provides enough context for us. So now let's jump into our manuscript. So again, this was just to familiarize you with some of the basic things you can do on the platform, record variables, create new ones, and so on and so forth. So now we want to write a manuscript. So on the Chi-Squares platform, you have these different buttons here: data processing, estimate, test. We're going to a deep dive of this in future trainings. If you don't know what you're doing in research, or if you're a beginner, where you really want to be is the analysis wizard. The analysis wizard is your friend. It's supposed to hold you by the hand and guide you on whatever you're doing. So that's where we're going to start from, analysis wizard. And there are many things under the analysis wizard. But this time, we want to write a manuscript. So we're going to go to analysis suggester. Everybody knows that if you're writing a manuscript, you have to do analysis. But that's not the question we're interested in. The question is, what kinds of analysis are we supposed to do for this manuscript? That's the question we don't know. And that's what the analysis suggester will help us to find. So you click on analysis suggester. Obviously, the analysis suggester will not magically know your variables that you're interested in. Yes, please go ahead. Yes, please. I cannot hear you though. I think we might need a microphone for her, or you can come to the front. Or you can shout, yes. Can it be? Can you undo it? Oh, that's yes. You can undo it. Yes. There is a history session where you can look at the archive, but that's why we emphasize principles of don't replace a variable in general, because the Chi-Squares platform might allow you to undo it, But that doesn't mean that another platform will allow you to do it. So it's just practicing good data hygiene. Don't overwrite variables. Create a copy so that if something goes wrong, you always have the original one to go back to. So how did I come across the data set? Okay. So there are two questions there, right? How do I get a data set and how do I know the missing values? Okay. So the whole part of automation is to make your life simpler. Most of us don't know how a car works, right? But we get into the car and we drive it. So the platform does all of those heavy lifting parts for you. The platform automatically detects the number of missing values you have, right? So that and tells you that in this variable, these are the number of missing values. Because if you were to go and start counting one by one, 1, 2, by the time you get to 16,000 missing values, that's going to take quite a lot of effort. So the platform does all of those things for you automatically. It tells you the number of missing values that you have. A missing value is like somebody was answering the question and then they skipped that question and went to the next one. So that means that for that individual, that question they skipped is missing because there's no information for it. So the platform would read and tell that there are missing values. X number of people do not have information for that question. That's what the missing values mean. Now, regarding where I got the data set, it's your job as a researcher to figure out where your data set is going to come from, right? So that's a question I cannot answer for you. I got this one from the internet, but you can get it from anywhere. Like it could be a survey you had collected somewhere. The platform will not automatically give you the data set. You will have to figure out what data set you're analyzing for your research. Does that make sense? That's why your supervisor will ask you, what's your research? Where are you going to collect data? So you go to the field, you collect this data, but after you collect the data, you have to analyze it, right? Aha, you now bring it to the platform, analyze it. Okay, yes. So for continuous variables, you simply cut where you select where. Okay, do you want to come and show us how to recode continuous variables? You're very particularly interested, so I think you should come and do it. The best way to answer it for yourself is to do it. Just come. Let's have a chat here. So let's go back to data. Sorry, we're going to suspend analysis for a minute, and then we'll answer our question and we'll continue. So let's say that you have our question is about how do you record continuous variables? So we have a continuous variable here, like this one, weight. And so let's click on recode. And now you have the floor. Now let's say that we want to recode this and want to slice this at 3 places. We have one continuous variable. I want to create 3 groups. The first at, let's say, where do you want to cut it at?
Okay, 375.
Okay, cut it there. It's not complicated.
So how about
Just go and just cut it where you want to cut it.
from here?
Inside the box. Just click anywhere inside the box. Then enter the exact number you want to cut out. You have to explain to them as you're doing.
Okay, I'm imputing the numbers. I want to cut from 375, so I want to impute the figure from here. Very, very
Yeah, confirm. No, confirm.
from here.
No, don't check that. Just confirm.
Okay.
Yeah. What else do you want to cut?
749.
Okay? So when it finishes, then you cut at that point. How many categories have you created so far?
2 categories.
Now you want to create a third one. Go ahead.
So I'm imputing the figure for the next category. That's 749. Confirm. That's 3 categories, sir.
So now you can now give the name. What name do you want to call the new variable? I mean, any name you want.
Okay, let me use my name.
Then you proceed.
Proceed.
You have any? Is that clear to you now? Okay. So once you split a continuous variable, it is no longer continuous. It's now categorical. Because now she splits in 2 places, so that means that our variable has how many categories? All right. So let's continue then with our analysis. So we went to data analysis and we said we wanted to this was our project. And so we want to add a manuscript. So we went to analysis suggester. And so the goal of analysis suggester is to suggest analysis for your manuscript, remember. And so here we start with the outcome. Every analysis you're doing must have an outcome, all right? There can only be one main outcome in analysis. So let's say that this research question I'm trying to explore is to look at how does living in a rural or urban area influence tobacco use? In this question, my outcome is what? Is my outcome rural, urban, or is it tobacco use? Again, the question is how does living in a rural or urban area influence tobacco use? What is my outcome in this case? Sorry? Tobacco use, right? So whenever you have, if you want to aim for publication in a high impact factor journal, you will have to learn how to frame your research in a causal framework. A non-causal framework will say, oh, what are the factors associated with tobacco use? It's like you're looking at everything under the sun, right? It's like a fishing expedition. Top journals do not want that. In fact, there is a paper that was published in the BMJ a few months ago that said we should ban all these kind of papers from Science. Papers that say, what are the factors associated with this? Because like the person just woke up one morning and said, what can I do? Let me just look at all the factors associated with X, Y, Z. It's like this person is not a serious researcher, right? Such questions, according to the article, demonstrate intellectual laziness. So you should always try to frame your research question in the context of a causal framework. There's an exposure and there is an outcome. It shows that you've thought about this very carefully and there is a very specific relationship you want to explore and contribute to the knowledge. So in this case, what is the association between living in a rural or urban area and using tobacco products? Not what are the factors that are associated with tobacco use, which could be the color of your hair. It doesn't show any concise thinking, right? So the platform forces you to think in a causal framework. It's going to ask you for your exposure and your outcome. Now, how many primary outcomes can we have in a study? What's the maximum number of primary outcomes that we can have? 1. You only have 1 primary outcome. How many captains can you have in a ship? 1. You can't have 2 captains in the ship, right? You can only have 1. So you can only have 1 primary outcome. But what if there are other outcomes that you're interested in? Let's say for this research, we're interested in cigarette smoking, but we're also interested in pipe or hookah. So now we have many outcomes. Still, you can only have 1 primary outcome. Pick the one that is most important, make it the primary outcome, then make all the other ones secondary outcomes, right? But you can only have 1 primary outcome. If you apply to an NIH grant and you said, here are my outcomes, the following 10, it's like, oh, this person's not serious. It's like, this is just a fishing expedition you're doing to see, oh, maybe one of them will work. It's like you are throwing many things on the wall and hoping that one of them will stick, right? That is not the good way to do research. So you pick 1 primary outcome. So here, the platform says, tell us the variables you are interested in And then in return, we will tell you the analysis that you should do for your research. So here I will select my primary outcome. In this case, it is current use of any tobacco product. So this is my primary outcome. This one says you use any tobacco product at all, yes or no. That is my primary outcome. Then here, if I have other secondary outcomes, I can then put them under this one, which is secondary outcomes. So here, I'm going to select things like cigarette smoking and maybe other tobacco products like electronic cigarettes, cigars, and smokeless tobacco. Those were all other tobacco products I was interested in, but since I can only have one primary outcome, I selected the first one here as my primary outcome, and then the other ones as secondary outcomes. So again, it is very important when you are analyzing data with the causal framework that you must know your outcome and you must know your exposure. Exposure, outcome, but not factors associated with the outcome. Are we good? Now we have to select our primary exposure, in this case, which is rural or urban status. So let's select that, rural or urban status. And then lastly, it says all other demographic variables in your data set, you can select them. Demographic variables are things like age, sex, race. They are not the primary exposure or outcome, but they influence those variables. So we're going to select things like whether you have any disability, as well as things like your sexual orientation, your occupational status, your body mass index, because we know that people smoke cigarettes lose weight sometimes, your poverty index ratio, your marital status, your education, race. These are other demographic variables that are in our data set. So the idea here is that you may not know the research question or the research analysis you should do, but at the very least, you should know your exposure, you should know your outcome, and at the very least, you should know the demographic variables in your data set. That's all you're supposed to know. And if you don't know these ones, then maybe you should not be doing research, right? So the platform says you should at least know these things, right? And then we're going to say done selecting. So that's all we have to do. So here, we selected our exposure, our outcome, and our demographic variables. And now we can say suggest analysis. So this is when the platform will now suggest the analysis that we're supposed to do. So let's wait for it for a second. So this is the hardest part of a job that you have. In writing a manuscript on the platform, this is the hardest work you have to do. Once you can do this, you are all set. The rest is just smooth sailing. So if you can do this, that means that you can write a manuscript on the Chi-Source platform. Figure out your variables, exposure, outcome, and then the other demographic variables in your data set. And then the platform will take a minute to suggest analysis. Again, remember that anything that has to do with data on the Chi-Source platform does not use AI, because we need those things to be 100% correct 100% of the time. So now the platform has finished with our analysis planning. So it says that for this paper, we should have 4 tables. Table 1, Table 2, Table 3, and Table 4. It says Table 1 should be characteristics of a study population. If we click on that, this arrow here is going to give you a justification for why it suggested that table. Obviously, if 2 people had the analysis suggester run on their computers, you might get different suggestions based on what you entered. So it's not one uniform suggestion for everybody. The platform looks at the number of variables you suggest, the type of variables they are, and other statistical considerations before making suggestions for you. So those suggestions are made, and so you can look at them. Again, you don't have to do it, right? But if you are new to research, just follow the suggestions, because they are optimized for statistical sense. So now, if I want to run any analysis from these tables, all I need to do is open that suggestion by clicking the arrow and click on Run this analysis. The platform would now ask you to verify that indeed you want to run the analysis, right? And if you confirm, all you need to do is click on Estimate. So the next person, volunteer, should be preparing. We need somebody else to run the next analysis for us. So we will run the analysis, and we'll now, remember we're trying to write a manuscript. So we'll run the analysis, and then we'll push the analysis to our manuscript, and so on and so forth. So that's all you have to do. 4 suggestions, you run each one, you push it to your manuscript, and that's how a manuscript is formed. So let's see what happens now. So this is table 1, which is population characteristics. The table 1 of a manuscript gives you an overview of a population under study. So you can know that, oh, X percentage are males, and so on and so forth. Now the analysis has been completed. So here we have, this is our table here. This tells me that in total, there are 32,629, and of this, 22.4% live in the rural area, while 77.6% live in an urban area, and so on and so forth, right? Those are the characteristics of my study population. So the platform analyzes the data for you. It also creates a plot for you. For every analysis done on the platform, it also creates the visualization for you. Because, like they say, a picture speaks more than 1,000 words. It also writes out the result for you. Because not everybody knows how to write out science properly. Because even if you gave this table to some people, they might still struggle with how to write it out correctly, right? So to prevent any mistakes, the platform also writes that for you. And apart from being able to write it out, there are lots of people who do not speak English as a first language. If you go to China, for example, most people there do science where they publish in US journals. So the ability to be able to write out results in good scientific English it's important. So the platform does all of these things for you. And now if you want to add this to your manuscript, all you have to do is to push this result to the manuscript. So we don't have a manuscript now, so let's create a manuscript and let's push this result to that manuscript. Remember we said that you could start either from the manuscript or you could start from the analysis. We started from the analysis. Now we have to link the analysis with our manuscript. So let's do that. So we'll come to actions here at the top here. I will click on push results. That's where we're going to push the results to the manuscript. So we'll click on push results. We don't have a manuscript yet, so we're going to create a new manuscript. And there are different types of manuscripts, but we are interested in an academic manuscript. So we'll select an academic manuscript and we'll click on next. Now we have to provide a title for the manuscript. Is anyone lost? Are we going too fast? Yes? Okay. Okay, let me go back. Do you understand up to this point? Where we did the analysis. So we had an analysis suggester, and then, so first of all, we went to the analysis suggester, and it gave us suggestions based on the variables we selected. So the analysis suggester told us that we need 4 tables for manuscripts. And all we had to do is go to each table and click on run this analysis. Is that part clear? Okay? So now we ran the first table, which is this one, and it has created for us a table, a figure, and it has written out the results for us. But we're not interested in just the output. We are interested in the manuscript. So we have to now push this result to our manuscript, because that's what we need at the end of the day, right? We need a manuscript. So we said, when you come to actions, under every output, you see this actions button. So you click on actions, and you click on push results. There are different things under actions. You can choose to download the table. If let's say you want to download the table and send somebody else, you can download. You want to rerun the analysis again, but that's not what we're interested in. What we're interested in is to have this output in our manuscript. So that's why we click on push results. So we clicked on push results, and now you can select the manuscript you want to push the results to. But this is a new manuscript that does not exist yet. So that means we have to create the manuscript from scratch. So that's why we clicked on create a new manuscript. If the manuscript we wanted to push to already existed, we will simply select that manuscript and push to it. And we will only create the manuscript once, obviously. Subsequent times the manuscript already exists, so we'll just simply push to that existing manuscript. So in this case, we select academic manuscript and go next. And now, since we are creating a new manuscript, we have to provide a title for that manuscript. So let's call this Tobacco Use Prevalence among adults, US adults. So hard typing with one hand. In rural versus urban areas. That's the title of a manuscript. And then we have to provide an aim for a manuscript. But this one, we're just going to ask AI. So again, for the first time since we started our manuscript, we're going to use AI. The platform does not use AI for analysis or things that are facing the data, but things like aims. It's a low-risk thing. What could go wrong? You can always edit it yourself. So we can ask AI to generate the aims. So the platform looks at all the processes and it knows where to give you an AI assistance. And you can choose not to use, nobody's forcing you to use AI. You can choose not to use it. So in this case, I don't like suffering, so I'm going to use AI. So I'm going to select, let's say, these two aims. And even after you select the aims, you can also edit the aims accordingly. And now let's create our document by clicking this button here, create document. Now we have created our document, and now we can push the results of that analysis to this document. So we're going to click on push. This is the button push here. And so the platform will take the results and the methods and everything we created from that analysis, and it's going to push it to the manuscript. So let's go and view the document. So now we are leaving the analysis to go and see the document that we have started to create. So this is the document here. So now, let me make this bigger by minimizing this page. Excellent. So now you can see many parts of the manuscript are still blank. The abstract is nothing there. The introduction is nothing there. It's work in progress, right? Now the methods, when you push results or you push output, the platform will take the parts that are supposed to be the methods and put them in the methods. You take the parts that are supposed to be in the results and put them in the results, and so on and so forth. So it's not you trying to figure out, where is it supposed to go, right? Also, the order in which you push does not matter. You can push the fourth suggestion first. The platform knows the order in which science should be written. So when you push content, it crawls through the document and inserts itself at the point where it's supposed to be, so that you never have to do any manual copy and paste yourself. So there is a lot of intelligence built into the platform. So now we have the methods here. There are some results here from where we pushed, and then at the bottom here you have some limitations. Again, this is the platform automatically rearranging the content based on where it's supposed to go. But again, remember we had 4 suggestions, right? We've only done 1. So we can now go to the other ones and do the same. The 4 suggestions are meant to give you a complete manuscript, right? That addresses the whole question from beginning to the end. So it's best to run all 4 of them. We only did 1, so now we can go to the other ones. This is the analysis tray. The analysis tray follows you wherever you go once you start from analysis. Because if we didn't have the analysis tray, the question is, where are the other suggestions that were given to us? How do we get them? So to avoid you asking that question unnecessarily, this analysis tray will keep following you wherever you go, so that if you want to run the analysis from wherever you are, you can run it there and just push to that manuscript easily. So now we're just going to click on this and resume from where we stopped, right here in the manuscript. So that's the whole idea of having one ecosystem. Again, it's not like having SPSS open on one page and Microsoft open on another page. It's one ecosystem, and they speak to each other seamlessly. So you are able to do every single thing from one place. So we've run the first table, and that's why here it changes to view history instead of run analysis. That tells us that we've already run that analysis. Now we can go to table 2, and then the same thing as table 3. So if we wanted to run, like, for example, table 3, which is regression analysis, all we need to do again is run this analysis. So now we need a volunteer to just pick one of this analysis, run and push it for us. Who wants to volunteer? Somebody who does not volunteer, I will pick a volunteer. Yes, please come. So just explain to us what you're doing. And then when you're done, you have to interpret the results. I'm just joking.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, I'll be running the analysis for table theory. So I click estimate.
Yes, it does, yes. Yes. I'll walk you through. Okay. I can walk you through all of that once we're done. In this case, we just came to the analysis wizard because we assume we don't know what we're doing. So the platform is giving us suggestions based specifically on the kind of paper we want to do. But if you know what you're doing, the platform has this massive aspect of a platform that you can go and do very specific things yourself. Okay, do you want to walk us through the different panels?
Okay. Yeah, I come to click actions, then I push the results. Then I think we created a manuscript the other time. I don't think.
That's the first one, the tobacco prevalence.
Yeah.
That's the first one here. Good.
Yeah. Then we push. Text 4, then click on view documents.
All right.
So we scroll to see different compositions of how the result came out. You see the variable, the category, the total, rural, urban, and all that. We see the sex, orientation, and all. So from here, we see that the rural, they are about 7,304, while the urban about 25,325. So this is just the analysis of the result.
Thank you so much. Please clap for him. All right, so we've done two analyses. This was the first one, the table from it, population characteristics, and its figure. You can choose to push only the table, but not the figure, or figure, but not the table. By default, it pushes both table and figure. Then we had the regression analysis done. This is our logistic regression analysis. let's make the variables to be human readable. Let's close this, and let's resolve the table names. This thing here looks like gibberish because it's something that the computer understands, but you make it something that you can also read. You can click on this part that says resolve tables and figures so that it becomes something that is human readable. All right, so now we can read this as humans. So again, these are regression analysis, and this is our forest plot that was created by the platform automatically, right? So now we have push 2 results. I'm not going to push the rest. Yes, please go ahead. Excellent. He asked a lot of excellent questions. Number one, he said, how does the platform handle missing values? Missing values by default are handled with list-wise deletion, which means that the analysis is only performed among individuals with complete case counts. So if I'm analyzing variables A, B, and C, an individual is only included in analysis if they have data for A, B, and C. So that's a standard approach done in every single software. So that is the default approach also used on the platform. For handling of means, he said that how does the platform handle means? And in the context of skewed variables. So when the platform is giving you a suggestion, it takes all of those things into account. So for example, if you have an outcome that is skewed, the platform will first of all test for that variable and say, is this variable skewed? If it's not skewed, it might suggest something like linear regression for you. If it is skewed, it will recommend something like median regression. So all of those things are taken into account by the platform. Then your question about customization, yes, you can customize the plots. The platform obviously has to give you something first, but you can always go back and recreate other plots that you wish to create. You can also import plots externally into your manuscript as well. Does that answer your questions? Excellent. Yes, please.
Then 4 hypotheses. Then following that, then perhaps maybe having scope of your research and all that, and I'm just looking at the typical research work now. Is it possible to do that multiple regression, having data for all these variables? That's one. Two, maybe you have also variable up to maybe explanatory variable up to 8, maybe 10. Is it also possible to take it on this platform? That's just what I want to ask, sir.
Okay, thanks. So yes, the platform allows for multiple regressions. You can see that the very one we're looking at here, the very last one we did here, this is an example of a multiple regression. Here, for example, you have a table number 3 suggested from our analysis was a multiple regression analysis. So the platform will indeed suggest things, but in a way that is most appropriate. The platform is not going to say, do 50 analysis for a manuscript. That makes no sense. It's going to optimize. So even if there are a million things that could be done, the platform will suggest the 4 or 5 that are most relevant to that question in mind, and then you can then run. But like I said, the analysis wizard is designed for people who need help. The platform has extensive capabilities for, you can just go off on your own and just run whatever you want to run. If it's 50 tables you want your manuscript, great. The analysis suggester would only give you like 4, at most 6 suggestions for a table. But yes, you can do all of those on the platform. All right, any other questions? Yes, please.
I'm going to first of all code it, then import it to this platform, and then recode it. I didn't understand that part at all.
So you can just import however it is, and then do everything on the platform.
Can I have it in that raw form,
yes,
and then bring it here, but it can still code it, and I'll be able to recode it?
Yes.
It's all right, thank you.
Yes, there's a hand there.
Very similar to that question. We do a lot of ANOVA. In ANOVA, there are ways data are organized. You have to collect your data, clean them up, organize them, or arrange them. If you are working with factorial, the system will have to recognize that this is a factorial experiment, and the way you organize the data is different from others. Can this system, can you just upload the raw data like that, and then to help you to organize and understand that this and these are what you want to do?
So, when you import variables in the platform, right, you are the mind behind the question. A variable might be in a particular format, in which form you do not want it to be in that form, right? In that case, you can simply recode it. That's why you're provided with the tools to do that. So the platform allows you to be able, it gives you all the tools. The platform says, I don't know what you want to do exactly, but here are all the tools in the world that can do any single thing that you wish to do in statistics, but in a very simple and intuitive way, right? So it gives you the tools that you need to do. And for people, someone might want to do a statistical test, for example. They may not even know that they need ANOVA, or they may not know that they need a chi-square test or whatever. And that's where you go to the analysis wizard. So in this case, for example, let's say I want to do a statistical test. Let me close this. Since a lot of people have talked about ANOVA now. We'll come back to the manuscript in a minute. So let's go back to analysis. And again, that's why you have the analysis wizard. It's there to help you if you're not really sure. So let's say I want to do a statistical test. I don't know whether it's ANOVA, I don't know whatever it is. I'll simply go to Analysis Wizard. But this time, instead of going to Analysis Suggester, I'll go to a Statistical Test Checker, select it, and then I'll select my variables. Let's say 2 variables I'm interested in testing. At this point, I don't know what the test is, right? I don't know whether it's an ANOVA. I just know that I have 2 variables I want to test. So I'll select the variables. Let's say variable number 1 is, let me pick something like BMI. And then the second variable, let's say it's a continuous variable. Let's say weight. And I click on run. So I don't know what test I'm supposed to do. All I know is that I have a variable BMI and weight, and I want to see whether there's a relationship between the two. So all I had to do was to go to the Analysis Wizard and select the Statistical Test Checker. I enter my 2 variables, in this case, this variable 1 and variable 2, and then I clicked on run. So the whole idea is that the platform would then go through its own decision tree and be able to tell me, recommend what I should do appropriately. But the bottom line is, the Analysis Wizard, as powerful as it is, may not answer all my problems. I may have a very specific thing I want to do that I just have to do it in a custom manner. But the tools are provided for you to be able to do what you need. So in this case, the platform has said, okay, you have one categorical variable that has 4 categories, and you have a continuous variable. The test that you need to do, in this case, is an ANOVA, analysis of variance. So it tells you why that this is the test that you need. It gives you a rationale for why that test is the most appropriate. And then it also then performs the test for you and gives you the results and the tables. So now you can interpret it. So you don't have to start worrying about G's. Because what people do now is that they carry around a cheat sheet. And they have to memorize that, oh, if it's categorical and categorical, you use this test. Like, don't you have better things to do with your brain than memorizing things? Right? You don't want to memorize anything, right? That's why we have machines. We don't need machines if we have to memorize all the things in the world. Our brains are to solve problems, not to memorize things, right? And so, in this case, you can then just select the variables you want and then have your test and in interpretation. Is that good? All right, so let's go back to our manuscript and let's see how the rest of the manuscript. So now we're going to the manuscript. This was the manuscript we had. So we had 4 suggestions. We did 2, which we pushed. Now we just want to, for the sake of time, I will not do the rest of the analysis and pushing, because I think we have a good idea of how it works now. So now, what I want to do now is to show us how the rest of the manuscript is written. Because the manuscript is not just the methods or the results. We also have to worry about the introduction and the methods and the discussion and so on. So let's see how the platform helps you develop the other parts of a manuscript other than these ones. So let's go to the introduction. Now, there are 3 ways of writing the introduction. There's one way for those who like to suffer, which is that you go here and you start typing everything one by one. That's great, right? For those who want that, that's awesome. However, I do not fall into that category, right? So I don't want to suffer, so what could I do? I will use generate content. This allows the platform to deploy AI for things that we deem as low risk. Again, we feel comfortable using AI here because it has nothing to do with data. What's the worst that could happen? Well, AI could write some things that you don't like and you can then edit it accordingly. But the analysis and the results, no, those have to be 100% accurate, and that's why AI cannot be used for those ones. But for these ones, we're going to use AI. So we'll come to introduction, and we select here. Now, there are 2 ways we can use AI. We can have an AI-first approach or a human-first approach. The AI-first approach says, the AI should just go ahead and give us something, and then we will edit it later. The human-first approach says, well, let me tell you, this AI, why this topic is important, what is known about this topic, and what the gap is, and then you, AI, you will take this information I've given you, and then you will synthesize it. Again, there are different types of people with different preferences for how they want to work, and with different preferences for how much AI they want in their work. It's not our job to prescribe that this is what you must do. Our job is to provide the tools And then individuals can choose how they want to work. There's a difference. It can be prescriptive. So here, you have those options. So in this case, again, feeling super lazy. So I'm just going to click this AI first approach, where with one single click, AI will then take the context. Because at this point, we have provided a lot of context for AI. AI knows the aims, it knows the title, it knows some of the results, it takes all of those things and it will create an introduction for us. And then our job then is to sit down and review the content very carefully. So now, AI has written the introduction. Our AI is trained to write an introduction in a way that addresses 3 issues. Why is this topic important? Which is what it covers in the first paragraph. What do we know about this topic? Which is what it covers in the second paragraph. Then thirdly, what don't we know? And why is it important that we know this? Which is what it covers in the third paragraph. So again, you can then edit here. You can type whatever you want to type in the editor here, or you can also choose to, let me move this out of the way. Or let's close it completely. Or you can now push to the manuscript and edit from there. Usually, most people will prefer to have the full manuscript first and then edit everything at the same time. It's your preference. So now we have developed our introduction. Now we will go to the next part of the manuscript now, after it has finished pushing. Any questions on this? Yes, please. Yes. Excellent. We'll come to that in a second. His question was, what about the citations? So that's a great question. Any other question? Well, good. All right. We also have a copy button here, which you can just copy and paste. Sometimes, depending on the internet, you might have some lags. And if you're not fine with the content that the AI gave you, you can always clear the content. So it's not as if you are now married to this bad content. You can always... all right, so I think there's the internet, whatever, it has pushed the content. So now we have our introduction, which we have not revised carefully. But in general, when you want to write, we usually recommend the FBR approach. Fast, bad, wrong. R for wrong. And the reason why R is for wrong is to tell you that it's wrong. Right? The whole idea is that just write fast initially. You can't write and edit at the same time. Just focus on having the full content. Yes, please. You have to shout. Yes. Well, that's a good question. So you have the choice as the author not to use AI, but we can't use AI and then edit AI out of it. That really does not make sense, right? You have used AI, period, right? And I think that the premise of it is that AI is this dirty little secret that we have to be hiding. No, it's not. AI is just a tool, right? I am the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Tobacco-Induced Diseases, which is one of the top 3 journals in the field of tobacco control. And we don't care whether you use AI. We ask that you be transparent in your disclosure of whether AI was used. The same way you would disclose that I analyzed data with this software or that. Like, why should you be hiding that you used AI? So that's our perspective. And so there's no need for us on the platform to say, we're going to give you a mechanism to humanize the text. That it misses the point of research completely. Right, go ahead, please. Excellent. So we'll talk about the issue of citation in a minute. But I'm going to address that along with your question on citation. But again, just to be very clear, our position is not one that we will give you a mechanism to use AI and then we humanize content, whatever that means, right? It's first of all, it's your job to read through the content and change it to your way, to however you want to read. And then secondly, we feel that it's a trivial point trying to hide usage of AI, because AI is not, it's something that we want to encourage. But what we want to encourage is ethical use of AI. And ethical use of AI has many components. One, use AI only where AI can be used or should be used. Don't use AI for things that AI cannot do, like analysis. Because then you have a problem with the output. Because for whatever we do, right, we have to ask ourselves, what is the ethical premise of why we are concerned about this, right? When we say, don't do this, the question is why? What is inherently wrong with it? That's the question we need to ask. So let's ask that with AI, right? Why are we concerned with AI? Well, we're concerned because AI could make mistakes and AI could introduce errors. Great. Then let's engineer processes that eliminate that completely. And so we make sure that our analysis are 100% rules-based automation and not AI. Okay, the next question is, what else are we concerned about? People will think that we use AI. Well, that's not a major concern, right? If that's a concern, you have two options around that. You could come here and say for let's say the discussion, yeah, you can just type all the contents. There's no need to humanize it again because you're a human. The tools are meant to assist us. Nobody ever expects you to bring out your fingers and toes and start doing math one by one, right? We expect you're going to use technology and tools. The exact same thing applies here. So it's up to you as a human researcher to decide whether or not you want to use AI. And in fact, on the platform, you can choose to switch off all AI. So if you come to, for example, checks here, and you click on that, the platform allows you can view AI activity, and you can also choose to disable all AI on the platform, right? And say, for me, on my account, I don't want any AI. And the platform will automatically disable AI every single place. So now you can now do everything manually, right? And we've had discussions with some institutions where, and interestingly enough, we've had partnerships with institutions around the world, but in some few institutions in Africa here, they're like, oh, like we don't want AI. I'm like, that is not really a good position to start from because you are choosing to put yourself backwards. The rest of the world is trying to figure out how they can incorporate AI to increase productivity. So I don't think but again, it's your institution, your rules. We are happy to disable AI for everyone in the institution. But the goal is, let's move forward with technology. Let's not move backwards, right? We have to embrace new ways of doing things. So let's go ahead with the rest of the text, and then we'll come to the issue of citations. So far, we have covered the introduction. We have our introduction here. Now let's look at the methods. Again, for the methods, we can come to generate content. Now, the methods section on the Chi-Squares platform is based on the idea that everyone can fill a form. It's easier for people to fill a form than to write out the content. So our premise, our basis for concern in the methods section is that the methods section is the most sensitive part of a manuscript in terms of the methodology. It has to be reproducible. That means that you have to tell us all the details that matter. So what we then do here is that we give you a form that has all the things that we care about. You simply supply them, and then AI's job is to paraphrase them into one nice cohesive flow. So here, for example, what was the study design? You tell us this was a cross-sectional study, and you select that. The next thing, what ages were eligible for selection? Maybe this was a study of every person who was age 18 years or older. You select that. And next, you tell us, what was the study setting? This was a household-based survey. Again, but because the idea is that you could very well write this yourself, but you might forget some key elements. And that is what our concern here. Our concern is not about AI or not AI. Our concern here is that the method section must be complete. It's the completeness of a method section. And so that's where the priority lies. So you provide the information. Next, how were participants selected? This was a stratified sampling technique. The next, how were data collected? This was with face-to-face interviews. If there were many methods, you select all of them. Next, what was the location of participants? This was in the United States. Next, when did that collection occur? This was in 2024. Again, what is our priority? That the method section be complete. Whether you wrote it yourself manually, whether you came in, use this form, and then asked AI to now take the information you have provided and write a method for you, which it has done now, that's not the priority. The priority is that make sure that the method section be complete. Now it's now up to you to decide how you want to go about that. But if you want to use the AI, great. Again, AI is not manufacturing the information itself. It's simply taking what you have supplied and then synthesizing it into a very coherent flow, which you can then push to the manuscript. So now we have written our introduction, we have provided our methods. The methods from analysis have also come from the platform itself, not from AI. We have the results section, which also came from our analysis, not from AI. And now we have to provide our discussion. Again, remember that here we didn't push all the analysis. We just pushed 2, but I would recommend that if you're pushing, you should push all the analysis because that's what will make your manuscript complete. The discussion, again, you have many ways you can choose to do it. You can choose to write it manually, or you can choose to use AI assistance. And again, here you have 2 options. You can do the AI first, where I simply click, and the AI takes the context, the results, it reads the results, and then interprets it and writes a discussion. Again, the choice is yours. It's not our job to prescribe to you, this is what you must do, right? I think that this is one problem in current modern day research. There's too much prescriptive protocols in research nowadays. You must do this. Let's ban this. I think that's not healthy. Let's allow people the ability to think for themselves and make decisions for themselves. And so now we can then push to manuscripts. Again, that's why this text here tells you that this is AI content. The AI has been trained to read the methods very well and write coherently, but still, it's not meant to replace you. It's your job to read everything and make sure that it makes sense. So we have a discussion now, and now we have the limitations. We can add to the limitations. We can also add our conclusions. Again, we can ask AI to generate for us and push the manuscript. Now, of course, our references are still blank. We'll come to that in a minute. So now, but at least now, we have a full draft of a manuscript, and that gives us a place to start from. Now, we have these things here that may not make sense, like these variable names like educ, PIR. Those are nonsensical words because they were names of our variables. They may not make sense to a reader. So we can come to cleanup, which allows us to clean those texts. So we click on cleanup, and we'll supply the names of those terms. So for example, rural urban means rural or urban area. Then this means any disability. This means sexual orientation. This is occupation. Body mass index. Poverty index ratio. Marital status. Education level. Race, ethnicity. Age group. gender, US Census region. So you're the one who knows what those names mean. There's no way. We could easily use AI to guess what that means, but that would be ridiculous. You're using AI to tell AI what to do. You have to supply what those terms mean. And then here we have current any tobacco use. So we have provided the names, and now we can tell the system to go to every instance of this name. This is not find and replace, where it's just going to put the exact word. Here, at every instance, it's going to read that word and say, how should we frame it in such a way that it reads very coherently? So the way it's framed in one place might not be the same way it's framed in another place, because it has to read coherently at every point in time. So that's what the platform will then do. So it's not just find and replace, where it's just mechanical replacement. This is contextual replacement, so that it has semantic meaning. So now it has, once it does that, it's going to, so you see it has replaced all of those things with the actual English word. So now it has meaning, even if we were to share with somebody else. And so, and you can always go back to track changes and see what was, you can look at what was changed. So here you can just make sure that nothing was changed beyond what you wanted. So you can see married was changed to marital status. This also confirms to you that the actual results were not changed. And you can always choose to replace, for those who want to suffer, you can always go back and say, I want to do it manually too. That's also allowed. So now we have our full document. And again, very important to note, for the abstract, you can generate content and select the different formats of abstract you want. There are different ways we structure abstracts. So you can say, this is the format I want. Different journals have different requirements. And this is the number of words that I want for the abstract. And the platform will then take the content. Obviously, there's dependency to these things. You can't write this discussion without having provided the results first. You can't write the abstract without having written the whole document first. So the platform will reject. In fact, you won't be able to access those things if you tried. Now, let's go to the burning question that has been asked by two people. What about the citations? So the citations are not provided by the platform automatically. As a scientific platform, we also have an ethical responsibility to make sure that science is done ethically. And the one way we do that is to enforce that readers or authors read the document. At the very least, you have to read the document. For that reason, we do not provide references automatically. So it's your job to go over here and say, oh, understanding this prevalence of so and so, okay, I don't like that, so edit, and then you cite it yourself, right? So that forces the readers to do that. All we do then is provide you the tools to do the citation. So to add citations to your work, you come to this button here that says citation here, and you click that button, and so it opens up as a leaflet, where on the left-hand side you have your work, and on the right-hand side you have a reference engine. So this means that you don't have to go and start looking for endnotes or refworks. Everything is inbuilt. Now, this citation engine has access to PubMed and Web of Science and Directorate of Open Access Journals. Anywhere you could get scientific information from is already embedded into the platform. So it's in there. You can also choose to just import your references. So let's say you have references from EndNote. You can just also import them directly by upload. And it's going to be accessible to you. But to add a citation, when you come to the references here, the platform will automatically do a preliminary literature review for you to see which references are best aligned with the topic that it is seeing here. So here, for example, it has done a quick literature review and said, okay, here are papers that are really relevant. But of course, it's your job to do another additional search, right? You can do your own custom search here. But you can also just, if I wanted to cite these ones, for example, let's say I wanted to cite this paper and this paper at this point here, I select them and I just click on Cite Selected. So the platform will then take those two pieces of work and add them as citations at the point that I have selected. And so you have inline citation, but also you have references at the end of a document in the reference section here, right? So as you add references, you can also choose to edit references accordingly. So you can add citations in that way. And once you add citations, you can always change the citation style. By default, the platform uses AMA, the American Medical Association style, which is superscripted. You can choose to say, I want another style. And so in that case, you will go to your document and go to settings and change reference style. You change it from AMA to any other format that you want. And that's how you can change the reference style automatically. But overall, that's the mechanism under which you can create manuscripts on the platform. You can also add authors. This is a collaborative platform, so that means that you can work with 100 authors, no matter how many of them are. When you work with co-authors, the platform tracks how many words and how much time each person spent on a document, so that you don't have 100 authors who are just chilling and doing nothing, and then want to be co-authors. So the platform will tell you, this author spent exactly 2 minutes on this document and added 1 word, right? So you can know, because authorship has to be ethical too, right? And so our job is also to ensure that there is ethical conduct of research when it comes to collaboration. Of course, you can choose to do whatever you want, that it's your manuscript, but the platform, our job is to give you the tools to track, so that you're not there wondering, did this person even work on this manuscript? Well, you can see it objectively. They contributed 2 words, and they spent exactly 30 seconds. And then you can now use that information however you want. So to add manuscripts to authors, you come to author management, and then you can add people from there. You can click on add individual authors. You can add their name, first name and email and last name, and the platform will automatically send an invite to them. If you have a lot of authors, you can also just copy a link and send it to them and say, just add yourselves. And you can remove people who you don't want to be authors. So, and then of course you can also submit to journals from a platform. So when you're all done with your work, you can click on publish. And then you select the subject classification of your work, and you can select peer-reviewed journals. We're having a partnership with a growing number of journals that are partnering with us, so that with just one single click on the platform takes your work, it formats it to the requirements of that journal, and submits it on your behalf. Because people spend a ridiculous amount of hours just trying to submit a paper to a journal. You take the paper, you go and read the journal's instructions, then you have to come and format your work, and then it takes hours upon hours. That is time that could be spent for something else. So it's like, those are just mechanical tasks that add no value that we can easily automate. So the platform allows you to do that, and if your work is rejected, you want another journal, it automatically reformats it for you. And yeah, so in a nutshell, that's how the platform allows you to write a manuscript. So you can see how you can write a manuscript in a day, or in just a few hours on the platform. But again, that is not the final manuscript. That's just version 1.0. I keep talking about version 1.0, right? Because the assumption now is that now you take that version, get your cup of coffee, tea, or whatever you drink, and now review that manuscript very carefully for making sure that it's contextually appropriate and all those other things. But that's, in a nutshell, that's how the platform assists you to be able to put a manuscript together. Yes, you have a question? So two great questions. Number one is, can the platform allow you to write a thesis, a PhD thesis? Well, there's no standard format for what a thesis looks like. Different universities have requirements. For example, if you're doing PhD by research, the chapters of a thesis represent individual manuscripts, right? So in that case, instead of asking, can the platform write a thesis, the issue now is the platform can help you write the individual parts, and then you put them together, because the issue is, how do you eat an elephant? Well, in small sizes, right? So you can create a small chunks on the platform and then put them together to form your thesis. The second question, how about the issue of access and cost and bureaucracy? Organizations move slowly sometimes. And so now, the issue of affordability, most of we're a US company. And so in the US, for example, it costs about $1,000 per annum for users to access the platform, right? And in the US, we have, for example, HRSA, a government agency that pays for a good number of the US universities, right? So for example, we have HRSA has paid for 26 US universities to have access to the platform. So and any individual in the US or in any of the developed world, it costs $1,000 per annum. Now, back to your point, I'm no stranger, this is my country as well. So what we've done is to say that the platform is provided at a subsidized rate for people in Hinari A and B countries at $99 per annum. However, if we have a partnership with such universities, individuals in those institutions can access it at $50 per annum. So since we're working with UniBen as a partner organization, you will be able to access it at $50 per annum, right? So that's the arrangement made for you. Now that $50 can be paid by the university, or it can be paid by you. But if you are not part of the university, you will not be able to access it that way. So now, can you pay the $50 for yourself? No, because there's no mechanism for us to work with individuals. We don't work with private individuals. We can't. We just work with large institutions. So what would then need to happen is that even if you wanted to pay for it yourself, you'll have to form into a group. So people with like minds will have to come together. So you have a group of people who are interested in using the platform in the local institution, but who want to pay out of pocket. And then we can provide a mechanism to accept payment from you, because we cannot accept payments from individuals. At least not under the current discounted rates. Because if you go to our platform, there's no mechanism for you to pay $50. There's only a mechanism for you to pay $1,000 per annum. I'm sure you don't want to pay $1,000. All right, so that's what needs to happen. You will have to, and we can perhaps work with you to form a group of people who want to pay out of pocket, and then we'll process the payment for you at that individual rate of $50 per annum. But currently, we don't have such a mechanism. That's where we work with universities, because our goal is to make sure that we elevate the quality of research in our countries. Yes. 50. Yeah, 50 individuals. So you need to be at least 50 individuals in a group, and then we can provide a mechanism for you to make payments. Other than that, then it has to come through the official university or institution. Does that answer your question? Okay. All right. So you would, our email is, let me type our email here. So it's info. And I know there's a hand there. I will address you in a minute. So this is our this is our email here. Let me make this big. So info@chiquest.com. So that's how you can reach us. But yes, if we, and the only reason, unfortunately, why we cannot work with individuals is that it's just not sustainable. We just work with larger organizations. Yes, please, yes. Yeah. Yes, it does. On both cases, yes. So when you go to references and you're trying to create references, for example, on PubMed here, you can choose to, when you search and the results come out, there's a filter where you can filter, give me results in the past 5 years, past 10 years. And so that's how you can do that, yes. Yes, so, yeah, you had your hand up too. Yes, we'll come to you in a second. Someone has the floor. Can the software help you publish? That's the question. Okay. So our question is, can the platform help you publish? For example, helping you find a journal and what of manuscripts that you have outside? Did I hear you correctly? Okay. Yes, it can. So let me answer your two questions clearly. You come to the manuscript, you come to actions, you can come to journal suggester. The platform will take the manuscript and see, of all the journals in this world, which ones are the best fits for your manuscript. So here, it says that my work is best sent to these journals: Preventive Medicine, MMWR, BMC Public Health, Journal of Rural Health, and so many others, right? Addictive behaviors, that these are the best fits for my work. And so I can choose to say, well, and those that are open access are clearly labeled as open access so that you can know that, okay, these are open access. So you can choose whether you want to send your work to a subscription journal or an open access journal. Now, let's say you had another manuscript somewhere that you wrote last year before you came to the platform that was rejected somewhere else and you want to now bring it to the platform. You can also do so. I would simply go to Collaborate and I'll start writing. And here you have three options. You can create an academic manuscript, you can create a documentation, or you can upload a document that you already had, right? This was not developed on the platform. You wrote it on your computer, and you just want to bring it to the platform. So here, you upload it, and of course, the platform will optimize things in the background. So it's asking you, this document you're uploading, is it for an academic manuscript, or is it for just general writing? I'll say it's for an academic manuscript, and then I can then select wherever that document is and upload it. And then the platform, if it had references in it, the platform will automatically reformat the references. Because sometimes, the problem with science sometimes is that you use a reference mesh engine like EndNote, and now you need another EndNote to be able to use it again. Because other reference software do not recognize other ones. Science must be, interoperable, right? So the platform operates, it will recognize whatever citation that was used, it will recognize the references, extract them, and then you can now use any other reference format. Now, if the journal you're trying to submit the work to is one of our partner journals, all you need to do is click format or send. You don't have to worry about formatting or reformatting or, no. The platform already knows the requirements of that journal. That's why they're a partner. We already have automation. The idea here is simple. Things that can be solved by automation should be done by automation. We shouldn't, because there's no extra benefit for you sitting down 10 hours and saying you formatted the document. Your manual suffering does not add any value to the process, right? Value is created through intellectual effort, not just sitting there suffering and sweating and just like, so things that are just pure mechanical tasks are things we can automate. That's why we have automation. That's why we're engineers. We can solve problems through automation. So the platform does all of that for you, and then you can just focus on what's the intellectual value of the work. Yes, there was a question at the back. Yes, finally, sorry about that. Excellent question. Now, there are far, far better platforms for qualitative work than this. So if you are to recommend a platform for qualitative research, this will not be the 10th one I will even recommend, right? Because it's not built specifically for qualitative research. It's built, our goal is not to solve all the problems in this world. It's to find one problem and solve the life out of it. Now, having said that, you can still use the platform for qualitative work. Tomorrow, we're going to discuss how you could do some of that through questionnaire design and data collection. For example, you might be collecting audio files, or you might be doing, for example, a focus group where people are talking and you need to capture their voices and transcribe, and you need to now convert that. So it's not as if the platform doesn't do qualitative work, but I'm saying that if we were to rank it among, there are other better options, but it also supports extensive qualitative work, which we're going to cover tomorrow. And again, remember that also the platform allows you a free document where you can do anything, and there are lots of tools that will support you in things like coding or transcription or thematic analysis. When you collect data on the platform, our survey platform, questions that are open-ended are automatically analyzed thematically, consistent with qualitative approaches. So yes, it does that, but again, I wouldn't rank it as a top software for qualitative work if you are very heavy in qualitative work. Does that answer your question? Excellent. Yes. Let me take this side, and then we'll come to that side. Yes. Ilya, using as a microphone, we could pass to people. Just hold on a sec.
So I see the platform is all encompassing and very diverse. But in terms of proposal writing, I want to hear your take on the comparison between this platform and using ChatGPT, right? Then secondly, in the area of ethics in publishing, there's this issue of AI and plagiarism, and this is AI generated. Sometimes it's AI generated, like the manuscripts and all that. So what's your take on AI, percentage of AI and plagiarism? Can we assess that, and can one be able to, do some changes so that it can be low for some journals to accept the publication?
Okay, thank you very much. So the first question about comparison of ChatGPT, I think that's something that you best do. You can take the platform and create. We're not necessarily interested in when we develop or engineer solutions, we're not necessarily interested in what ChatGPT is doing, right? So I won't be able to comment on that. What we're interested in doing is saying, how do we train our AI? Because remember that ChatGPT is just a general language model. It knows a little bit about every single thing, but there's no sufficient depth. And so our proposal generation is saying, how about we train our proposal on millions of proposals developed by AI, by NIH, right? And so I'm sure that AI can be able to generate a proposal for you. But the extent to which it will be able to address the specific aspects needed by NIH, that is something I can't tell you. Maybe you can try that and tell us tomorrow how that went, right? So the platform, what it does is, let's focus on getting this right and getting this right 100%. Let's make sure that the model knows that this is how you read an NIH part and that this is how it's supposed to be framed. And now, whether ChatGPT can do that or not, the details of that, I do not know. Regarding the second question about the ethics of writing, the ethics of writing are simple in AI. AI should not do what AI cannot do. AI cannot replace the human. The human must be in charge of a process, right? Those are the principles that underpin how we approach ethics in science, right? Because for every rule, there has to be a principle. So the rule is not, what percentage of writing has to be AI versus not AI. That's not how we frame it. At least as an editor-in-chief, that's not how what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in you telling me 10% of the work is AI generated. Like, what does that even mean? It has no inherent meaning, right? And so it's not about percentages or so. It's about, does this idea, does it move the field forward? If you bring me a cure for cancer, I couldn't care whether I use AI to write part of it, right? Like, does this add value? Those are questions that matter, right? And so that's what we want to. So I think we should shift our mindset from what percentage of AI is allowed, or how do I humanize text, to how do we add value? How do we make humans understand the principle of what research is? And how do we ensure that our research is free of bias and chance, and that what we present is the truth? So for me as an editor and as an engineer, those are the things that I'm more interested in. So that's why on the Kaiser's platform, you will not see anything like a humanizer, because the very idea is very absurd, right? You can use AI or not use AI. It's up to you to use it. If you want to use it, you can determine how much you want to use it. Not, because at the end of the day, it's a bit more, it's more of, it's even more deceitful using AI and then pretending that you didn't use AI than not using AI at all, right? Because you use AI, now you're trying to convince us that you did not use AI. That is more deceitful, because now we have left the field of ethics to outright criminal behavior where you're lying or tell us that I did not use AI when in fact you did use AI. So on the platform, we don't think these are the key questions that matter. We don't really, there's no real substance to them, so that we don't even provide tools like that, like humanizer or percent, because it completely misses the whole point of what the research endeavor is, to trivialities. And that's why we do not include those things on the platform. I hope that answers the question, at least from a philosophical perspective. All right, there were lots of hands here. Yes?
During, when you are writing introduction using the chi-square, is there a way you can program it to generate inline text citation?
So no, you cannot. So when you generate other products on the platform, like a proposal, or tomorrow we're going to look at how the platform, when you create surveys, the platform writes reports for use. All those things, the platform automatically allows you to create references by itself. But the scientific manuscript is a different level of document. It's a more, let's say, important document that we feel that the human being must be involved. So AI, the platform does the analysis automatically. The platform writes introduction for you automatically. The platform puts references. So the question then becomes, what's your own job, right? So we have to make sure that as a scientific platform, we bear moral responsibility for ensuring the ethical conduct of research. And the only way we can enforce that is to say that there will be no automation in adding references in the manuscript. The human being must read it and add it. We can help by doing a literature review for you in the background, but you must use your own hand to add it. Because that tells us that at the very least, you have read it. You understand? It's a philosophical issue. It's not a problem of engineering. If we wanted to add it, that's something we can do in an afternoon. But it's inherently a philosophical issue and a moral one too. Does that answer your question? Yes.
A suggestion to you in future training. Maybe you build a free version just for the training so that you can have on hands. Because this one now, they worry our heads. Okay. You understand? You understand Nigerian English. Secondly, I'm looking for our director. We need to know how far Uniben is collaborating so that we don't just you don't just leave and we forget the system. Because now that we know that we can do these things simply, if you carry manuscript again, you just be looking at it and wish you could use the chi-square. I don't know if the director is around. Director Ma, you may need to answer the question, please. How soon are we getting it? Are we using it? Thank you. So that we can help you to also, I'll be talking to, thank you.
Let's continue. Okay.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes.
Please, for an individual who is not currently in school, but a graduate of this school, and have interest in research and publication, how do we benefit from this subsidization?
So if you are You can use it for any of the things that you can do. But again, it's an individual decision, right? You might have other ways of doing this far better than what you have. So it's not, the purpose of this session is not to say you must use the platform. If you already have something that works for you, that's great. But obviously, if you see there are gaps in how you do your processes, that's great too. So it's for you. So it's not my job to tell you that this is what you have to do. It's your job to decide that, oh, well, I think I can have some efficiency gains here or there. And do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how your processes work. So, but the platform can allow you to improve your efficiency from data collection, analysis, manuscript writing, and you can then, you know, or maybe did I get you wrong?
Yes. If you have interest in the platform,
yes.
How do you assess?
Oh, okay. It's an access question. Okay, all right. Please.
I'm sure we will do assessment through our email. And every Unibank graduate has a Unibank email. So I'm sure with that, except if the school is going to restrict it. Outside that, we have the Unibank email that we use in assessing materials like this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, I misunderstood your question. I wasn't sure what, you know. Yes, please, yeah.
Thank you very much. As a graduate of University of Benin, I think after some time, your email is no longer working. So I think you work with your supervisor. If your supervisor is maybe still in Unibank and he subscribes to the platform, then through him, you can form groups and he will add you to it as well. I believe that would be another option for it. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to be clear, right, you can also, we're putting out the license very soon that will allow you as an individual to access the platform, right, under the LMIC license. It's only that you'll be able to, you have to pay $99 for it per annum. You can only access the $50 under an institutional cover. Does that make sense? But so you just go to the website and sign up, but you pay $99. Because the $50 is a special arrangement for our institutional partners.
All right, I want to appreciate you for this platform you have created. I must say, to me personally, it's more like giving my grandma an iPad to work with. It's very complex. To add to what my prof has said, if there can be a video on how to use each function, because the functions are so versatile. There are so much functions, and it entails giving the best of what you want to do, the best of the research. That's what. So my question is based on the subscription. You mentioned that we have to have like 50 persons who will subscribe. Like, I didn't get that subscription part because you didn't state it clearly.
Okay.
I also said something about if you have $1,000. Let's assume somebody outside is interested and he has such fund. Can that person subscribe individually? And also for the school, those under the school, if we can get 50 persons, is there a platform where they can subscribe to?
Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent. So let me break it down so you understand. So the Chi-Square platform, our primary markets are, the US, because we're a US company. So that's where we do most of our work, and that's where almost all of our clientele comes from. Now, if you're in the US and you're trying to subscribe to the platform, it's $1,000 per annum, right? But $1,000 to somebody in the US is not the same as $1,000 to somebody in Nigeria because of purchasing power parity, right? And so, now, as a Nigerian, I have Nigerian roots, I'm very interested in how do we make sure that ethically, when we innovate, we don't unknowingly increase disparities or even worsen disparities that existed between rich countries and poor countries. Because now rich countries take advantage of new technology because they can afford it. Poor countries are just where they were. So we're like, all right, let's create a plan for people from poorer countries to also access the platform. And so what we did was to create a license called a low and middle income country license. It costs $99 per person per year. So if you don't have to be part of Uniben to access that. You can go as an individual and go to the platform and access the LMIC license, then you'll have to pay twice what somebody in Uniben is paying. You pay $100, while if you are part of the organizational arrangement, you're paying half of that, $50. Do you understand? So that one, you don't need a group, you can just go by yourself and sign up. And the problem there is that you only pay for a license, and that's it. We're not just interested in selling licenses. We really want to empower researchers from our country. So what we do is that we will also provide trainings at periodic intervals, so that it's not just about knowing how to click this or click that. We want you to learn how to do science better. We want to create a whole generation of better researchers. So the group arrangement allows us to plan for events that are relevant to the group members. So we'll say at so and so interval, what topic is most pressing to you, and then we'll come together as a group and we'll cover it hands-on like this, maybe over Zoom, so that over time you develop competency as a researcher. So how do you form the group? You can email us at info@chi-squares.com. Because this is not part of our formal business arrangement, we don't have a dedicated framework for it. So you have to email us and say, okay, we have a group, and then we'll then apply the code for Uniben to that group, because the group is like an annex of Uniben, right? So that then you can also access the benefits for that institution, even though it's not been paid officially. Do I have cleared your questions? Or do you still have questions? Okay. So you're asking whether all 5,000 of you are paying $50, right? No. It's each person in the group pays $50. Yes. Yeah, if you have more
persons, let's say we have about 100 persons, can't you bring down the price?
Oh, no, that's $50. Good try. So, unfortunately, let me tell you why. It can't, because at $50, we're operating at near production. Because we run competition on the cloud. These things are super expensive. On average, it costs us about $200,000 every month to maintain the platform.
Please, the training for the day, can it be made available on a YouTube link? Can the training of the day be made available on a YouTube link?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was recorded. But if it was recorded, why not?
It was.
Yeah, okay. So, unfortunately, that's why it cannot be. So, by a true Nigerian. I saw there were other hands up here. Any other questions? Are we all set? So tomorrow, what time are we starting? 9. We're starting tomorrow, 9 a.m. prompt. Please, this is not 9 African time, 9 a.m. digital time. So please, be on time, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. Interestingly, it has been a very wonderful outing. 9 for 9 tomorrow. The director, please, let's quickly hear from you.
Thank you very much, everyone. I think we've enjoyed ourselves very thoroughly today. I think I heard a lot of the questions. Professor Moyaki, you were calling my attention. That's why they are here. We want to see how the university can collaborate with them and then see how we can make it possible for most of our students and staff to be able to access that platform. I don't think we just brought them here because we wanted them to come and do business showcasing. Thank you, sir. So we're just trusting that management has been very magnanimous in allowing us to host this and supporting this workshop. They've been very supportive. I want to say thank you to them. And we want to see how we can move it from this level. My office is more into MOUs, to see how we can have MOU with Chi-Square. And if we have an MOU with Chi-Square, please just believe that this one that we're looking at, maybe the university may just go into a point of collaboration, and we may have a standard price that the university will pay, and most of us as staff and students will be able to access the platform very easily. So thank you very much. We are grateful for everyone that has come. Because we want to round up tomorrow earlier than this, that is why we are saying, please let us come early and then start at 9. Professor Agagu has a flight to catch tomorrow. And so I think if we have enjoyed today, tomorrow will be even greater than this. I want to also appreciate other sister universities around that has come from BIU, from Okada, from West Spring, and other schools around. We want to appreciate you for coming. For all our professors that have come, we know that you are not writing any new paper right now, but you are mentoring us. You are mentoring the younger generation. So, especially the middle cadre staff, this is something that we must key into. I think one of the things that we are lacking right now is that many of us don't even know how to write for grants. And those that can write so easily, it's difficult for them to pass it on to us. So once we are able to scale certain hurdles, we can move faster in our research, in our progression in this academic environment. So I want to thank you on behalf of our directorate, and we are also trying to introduce our directorate to you, because many of you don't know we are here. We are here to help you do your collaborations and linkages with other universities outside this country. And so if you have any university you are interested in, or that you have people trying to let you know you can come to their school for any program, please let us know. Let us make it official. And if it's official, you won't be kicked out of your program very easily. Our office is at Environmental Science. You can come in any time, make inquiries. We will let you know what we do and other collaborations that we are having in different fields. So we have collaborations with different universities outside Nigeria, in America, in Canada, in UK, in China. And this collaboration cuts across different disciplines. Whether you are in agriculture, you are in law, social sciences, political science, anywhere you are, we have collaborations that are existing already. So you can come and key in. That's why we are here for you. I want to thank you again. We want to say we are very grateful for the time that you have spent. And I'm so encouraged by the turnout. I'm encouraged by the number of professors that are here, associate professors, doctors, all of you, we are grateful. Our students, we are grateful. I want to say a very big thank you to the Vice Chancellor too and management team. We are very grateful. TED Fund has been very supportive. So we are grateful to the director of TED Fund today. Professor Agagu, we are very grateful. We appreciate you. So let's do it again tomorrow, God willing. And let's make it 9 a.m. See you tomorrow by His grace. And bye-bye.
Thank you so much, the director. We'll hear more and we'll enjoy more. Thank you.